Chapter 50. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. Trust took time to develop. Zhang Wei seemed aggressive, but he also proved that he was a captain who took his responsibilities seriously. Han Xiao was not angry. However, it was impossible to kick him out of the team. Zhang Wei could not get past the higher-ups. Zhang Wei knew that he could not go against the higher-ups' decision, but as the captain, he had to take the responsibility of leading the team. How could he lead the team when a newbie with no experience and no information was given to him? He knew almost nothing about Han Xiao. The reason why Zhang Wei was angry was not because his position as the captain was being challenged, but because he felt that the higher-ups did not care about the safety of his team. A newbie who was not capable enough could easily make the wrong decision and put the team in danger. Even if it was not intentional, it was still a black sheep. Zhang Wei did not discriminate against newbies, but he felt that newbies had to go through at least 2 to 3 years of training before they were qualified to join the Secret Operations Department. He did not want to lead newbies on missions. Why were they stuffing all kinds of people into his team? What did they take his team for? A nanny? They did not care about the safety of their subordinates at all. D*MN those in power. Detestable, corrupt privilege class. Eat my salted fish spike. Zhang Wei secretly made a decision. If Han Xiao could not fit in with the team, even if the higher-ups disliked him, he would definitely kick Han Xiao out of the team. At the very least, he would kick the ball to another team. Han Xiao did not know what was going on in Zhang Wei's mind. He only noticed that Zhang Wei's eyes were getting more and more unfriendly. He did not know what this seemingly upright captain was thinking, but he felt that he had tricked someone else again. At this time, Lin Yao's computer lit up. He turned his neck with difficulty and looked at it. His expression changed. Sudden mission. The higher-ups want us to leave immediately. Zhang Wei's face turned serious. What's the situation? Ma Qingyang's team was on a mission to attack the Germinal Organization base and was ambushed. The higher-ups want us to go and help them immediately. We will talk about the rest when we get on the plane. Attack the Germinal Organization base. Han Xiao was stunned. Yes, this was the information he had given about the 3 bases. After thinking for a while, he could roughly guess what had happened. The 3 Germinal bases that he had given were all located within Star Dragon's territory. That was why Star Dragon had been able to mobilize its troops in such a short time. Division 13 had already destroyed 2 of the Germinal bases within the borders of 2 countries, which increased his mission progress to 0%. No matter how stupid the Germinal organization was, they would know that the information had been leaked. They would be prepared and set up an ambush at the 3rd base. Zhang Wei hurriedly walked out of the room. When he passed by Han Xiao, he paused and frowned. Lin Yao, stay here and take over the logistics position. Han Xiao, you're a newcomer. This is a rare opportunity. You should learn from the side and try to be useful as soon as possible. Lin Yao wanted to say something, but stopped. Han Xiao smiled and said casually, sure. Zhang Wei did not participate in the Black Spider operation. Just based on Li Yalin's description, he did not trust Han Xiao. Han Xiao could understand human nature. He sighed inwardly. Who asked him to be such a considerate man? Han Xiao thought for a while and stopped Li Yalin. He took out 4 magazines filled with high-explosive bullets and said, consider this a gift from me. Li Yalin's eyes lit up. Is this your new invention? Use it sparingly. Han Xiao laughed and said mysteriously, it will catch fire. You have triggered Level E mission, rescue. Mission details. Rescue a Secret Service team that is being hunted down. Your duty is to assist your teammates in completing this mission. Mission requirement. Rescue Ma Qingyang's team successfully. Mission reward. 8,000 EXP special reward. None 8,000 EXP was better than nothing. It was another reward for the logistics. Brother Xiao, the captain is not targeting you on purpose. Don't take it to heart, Lin Yao said carefully. I know. Hearing Han Xiao's natural tone, Lin Yao was relieved. He turned on the 3 computers and typed rapidly on the keyboard, adjusting the frequency of the mini cameras and mini headphones. The sound and image appeared at the same time, and the screen showed the 3 people's first-person perspective. The team had already boarded the plane. The headquarters had an exclusive subway that could quickly transport people to the airport in the suburbs. The three of them boarded the fighter jet, accompanied by a 12-man field team. Han Xiao, Liu Lin, and Lin Yao chatted with each other. Zhang Wei and Lambert did not join them. They were resting with their eyes closed. An hour later, the plane landed and arrived at the destination. In the picture, there was a Gobi Desert. The barren hills were continuous, like the spine of the earth. The sun was radiating light and heat in the blue sky. The air was distorted and floating under the high temperature. The yellow sand covered the ground was like a hot soldering iron, kissing the boots of the soldiers, emitting a slight burnt smell. "We have arrived at the destination," Zhang Wei reported. The three of them were fully armed. Liu Lin was still in her yellow hoodie and black bulletproof bodysuit. She had a retractable knife on her waist and a black backpack with a lightweight mechanical arm in it. Lambert carried a few dozen retractable knives and a long, narrow sniper rifle. However, Zhang Wei's weapon gave Han Xiao a shock. It was a personal power armor. His entire body was covered in thick, grayish-black armor with scratches on it. His head was like the heavy helmets of ancient Western knights, only revealing the eyes. The arm armor was equipped with hanging rails, carrying two modified and thick machine guns. The ammunition chain was hidden under the armor, and a replacement position was on the outside of his thigh, covering him tightly. There was also a hexagonal steel shield on its back. It looked like a tortoise's shell. It was very thick and looked very simple. It was obvious that this guy was the main tank. Han Zhao's interest was piqued. This is the prototype of the combatant armor. It's one of the few basic mechanical armors in Blue Star version 1. The Six Nations had different advanced knowledge and developed different unique weapons. These were the so-called faction specialties. Theseus focused on the development of power armors, and the combatant power armor was a small, full-cover power armor developed by Theseus after the open beta. It was the first power armor to appear on Planet Aquamarine, and it should not have been completed yet. Zhang Wei was only wearing the prototype, and he did not know how he got his hands on Theseus equipment. Something must have happened. Players could only buy this mechanical armor when they reached respected status in the Theseus faction. Moreover, it was very expensive. Just the repair fee after every battle would cost tens of thousands. The players could not earn as fast as Han Xiao. As the support of the team, he was responsible for the equipment supply and maintenance. Zhang Wei's armor would be repaired by him in the future. As long as there were no security measures, mechanics could reverse engineer the blueprint through the actual object. There were two situations. First, if one had learned the prerequisite knowledge of the blueprint, the derivation speed would be greatly increased. Furthermore, the EXP required to understand the blueprint would be within an acceptable range. Second, if one did not learn the prerequisite knowledge of the blueprint, they could still derive the blueprint. However, the progress was as slow as a snail, and the EXP required was astronomical. It was very common for the EXP required to derive the blueprint would be dozens of times higher. The blueprints they obtained would usually be labeled as incomplete or incomplete. The prerequisite knowledge of the combatant armor was the advanced knowledge of another arm branch, and it was in the hands of Theseus. Han Xiao bit his nails. If he could derive the armor blueprint, even if it was incomplete, he would be able to obtain a new combat method. After all, armor greatly increased his combat ability. However, after thinking about it for a while, he suppressed this thought. With his memory, he could integrate better mechanical blueprints and adapt to various requirements. It was not worth it to spend a huge amount of EXP to derive an incomplete armor blueprint. Lin Yao said, "The rescue team is 13 kilometers away from us. There are 15 armored off-road vehicles and a black harrier in pursuit. The rendezvous point is the hill 3 kilometers away from you. Your mission is to stop the pursuers and rescue your teammates. Don't get caught up in the battle. I've already sent them the rendezvous point, so be prepared." The order was clear. This was the job of the logistics and intelligence personnel. They were responsible for coordinating the overall situation and quickly coming up with suitable strategies for the combatants. The three of them and a field team quickly arrived at the rendezvous point. They lay prone behind the hill and waited for the enemy to appear. Soon, the roar of engines could be heard from afar. In the open desert, more than 10 armored vehicles of the German organization were chasing after a vehicle. The sound of machine guns and grenades could be heard incessantly. The flames of the explosions chased after the fleeing vehicle, creating craters in the ground and filling the air with smoke. The fleeing vehicle was Ma Qingyang's team. "Stand by." Zhang Wei's tone was solemn as he stared at the shrinking distance. When they were within range, he said, "Open fire." The field team hiding behind the hill suddenly fired a rain of steel bullets. Flames erupted from their guns, and the bullets that filled the sky hit the armor plates of the pursuing vehicles. Countless sparks flew, and the clanging sounds did not stop. Faced with the surprise attack, the leading vehicles hurriedly swerved to avoid the attack. They almost flipped over due to the high speed. Chapter 51. The machine gun in Zhang Wei's hands roared. Countless large-caliber bullets leaped out of the muzzle, dragging two distinct flame tails behind them. Like two flaming dragons, they swept and hit the two armored SUVs at the front. 5 seconds later, the two armored SUVs actually burst into a ball of fire, forcibly exploding. Lambert displayed his abilities as a sniper. He was as silent as a rock as he continued to fire. He used steel-core armor-piercing bullets, and every shot was effective. He hit the tires or the glass in front of the driver's seat, greatly slowing down the enemy's pursuit. "Reinforcements are here." Ma Qingyang, who was driving away, was overjoyed. His team members were filled with hope. Almost everyone in his team was injured, and they were lying on the ground like corpses. When the car reached the top of the hill, Ma Qingyang stuck his head out from the driver's seat and shouted, "Old Zhang, there are too many enemies. Run." At this moment, a strange gust of wind suddenly attacked Zhang Wei and the others from the bottom of the hill. The gust of wind stirred up the sand and dust, forming a ghost face with facial features. Everyone suddenly felt a burst of uneasiness in their minds. "Dodge!" Zhang Wei roared. He quickly rolled to the ground. His armor was too heavy, so he could only use this method to dodge. Leah Lin and Lambert reacted the fastest and immediately moved to the side. The gust of wind exploded in their original position, sending a few of the field team members flying. Zhang Wei suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head, and blood flowed down his nose. He was shocked to find that the field team members who could not dodge in time were all bleeding from their orifices and twitching uncontrollably on the ground. "Psychic attack. They have an Esper." Zhang Wei was shocked. He took a closer look and saw that the roof of one of the armored vehicles had opened, and a slender figure wearing a black leather jacket jumped out. She rushed toward them at an extremely fast speed. Her long red curly hair fluttered in the wind like red and black lightning. Hella's eyes were cold. She waved her hand, and another ghostly face quickly formed and blew toward Zhang Wei. The wind whistled in the air like a silent cry. No, this was not the sound of wind. This was the howl of a soul. Strength of the dead, Hella's Esper ability. Zhang Wei's mind was in a mess, and he fell to the ground. If not for his strong physique, he would have died. Han Xiao frowned. He pushed away Lin Yao, who was at a loss, and took over the command. She is the German organization's combat executive. Retreat immediately. Zhang Wei was about to reprimand them when he saw that Leah Lin and Lambert did not hesitate at all. They turned around and left, completely trusting Han Zhao's judgment. Which newbie was so trustworthy? Zhang Wei was surprised and swallowed his words back into his stomach. He gritted his teeth and stood up, activating the thrusters on his leg armor. With each step, he could move 5 or 6 meters forward. He followed his two teammates and retreated quickly. From time to time, he would turn around and shoot to obstruct Hella's pursuit. Hella quickly rushed to the top of the hill. With a wave of her hand, a gray light swept past. The field team that could not dodge in time all fell to the ground. There were no external injuries, but they stopped breathing. Han Zhao's gaze was solemn. He had long known that Hella was powerful. Thankfully, when he escaped from the laboratory, he did not meet Hella head-on. Her Esper ability was a super rare ability that was evaluated as having S-grade potential, exceeding the Calamity grade. The current Hela had only scratched the surface of her Esper ability, and that was already very powerful. She's too fast. Leolin, stop her. Leolin turned around without hesitation and whipped out a kick. A bright yellow aura exploded, and Hela was pushed back a few steps. Pugilist. Hela narrowed her eyes and clasped her hands together. An even larger ghost face smashed towards Leolin. Leolin was extremely calm. She slid under the ghost face and was only slightly affected by the aftershock. With her physique, she was completely able to withstand it. She once again closed in on Hela and slashed down with her retractable machete. Hela was shocked and had no choice but to roll on the ground to avoid the blade. Leolin used all her means. Every strike was filled with energy. Her long legs lashed out, slashed, kicked, and kicked. Her movements were as smooth as flowing water. She was like a nimble swallow dancing in the air. However, her attacks were like a torrential storm, overflowing with killing intent. Spirit swallow style. Hela's entire body was shrouded in a gray aura. Her arms acted as a shield, blocking every strike. She was unscathed. There was only one explanation for this. Hela's physical strength was far superior to Leolin's. Even in close-quarters combat, where Leolin specialized, she was not at a disadvantage. This series of exchanges had only lasted a few seconds, but it was extremely dangerous. With a mechanical arm, the enemy will reveal a moment of weakness. Lambert will seize the opportunity to snipe. Liaoan bit her lip and reached into her backpack with her left hand. When she took it out again, she was already equipped with a lightweight mechanical arm. She threw a punch, and with the added strength of the mechanical arm, Hela's hands were knocked away, and her chest was exposed. The mechanical arm sank into softness. It was a solid hit. A sickly flush appeared on Hela's face, and she groaned. She rubbed her hands together, and the gray air swirled around her palms at high speed, as if sparks were flying. Then, she pressed her hands down, and with her feet as the center, a strong wind blew in all directions, stirring up dust and sand. Leolin hurriedly retreated. Even so, she felt as if her brain had been smashed by a heavy hammer. Her soul felt as if it was being torn apart. Her head was in extreme pain, and 2 streams of blood flowed out of her nose. Her vision tilted, and she almost lost her balance. Hela stared at the familiar lightweight mechanical arm. She was both shocked and angry. "What's your relationship with Zero?" "Zero? Who?" Leolin was confused. Right at this moment, Lambert made his move. Grabbing this fleeting opportunity, he fired a shot. Hela's expression changed, and she quickly dodged to the side, using her gray energy to form a thick fog around her body. The large caliber bullet struck her shoulder, and Hela felt as if she had been hit by a speeding train. Her entire body spun as she was sent flying. "Zhang Wei, take Leolin and run." Zhang Wei did not object to being called directly by his name. Under Han Zhao's command, Leolin and Lambert worked together to quickly injure the troublesome enemy. Zhang Wei began to trust Han Zhao's orders. Upon hearing Han Zhao's command, he immediately carried the dizzy Leolin, turned around, and ran toward Ma Qinyang's car. The Germinal organization's armored vehicles rushed up the hill and opened fire. Zhang Wei's shield was hit, and sparks flew everywhere. He did not even dare to look back. At this moment, he was extremely grateful that he was wearing a huge metal suit. He used to complain about it being too heavy, but now he felt very safe. "Get in the car." Ma Qinyang looked back anxiously and quickly slowed down. The 3 of them hurriedly jumped into the car. The car only stopped for 2 seconds before it was almost shot through. Zhang Wei finally had time to observe the situation. The armored vehicles were not as fast as them, and the powerful Esper was treating her injuries. As long as they escaped to the plane, they could safely retreat. No problem. Zhang Wei breathed a sigh of relief. Han Xiao poured cold water on him. "Be careful of the sky." "Sky? Right, the enemy still has a helicopter." Zhang Wei was shocked. Tut, tut, tut. The Black Harrier finally appeared. The machine gun on the helicopter chased after the car and fired. "We have to shoot that thing down from the sky." Zhang Wei made a quick decision. Otherwise, our plane will be in danger. Only Lambert's sniper rifle has such a range. Lambert shook his head expressionlessly. I've already used up all my armor-piercing bullets. I only have normal bullets left. The Black Harrier's armor is very thick. Even with armor-piercing bullets, it will take at least 7 shots to penetrate the helicopter's armor. Are we going to die here? Ma Qingyang's face was filled with despair. They were only 1 kilometer away from the retreating fighter jet, but it was like a chasm between heaven and earth. Han Xiao suddenly interrupted. Did you forget what I gave you? Li Yilin was stunned. She took out 4 clips, one of which was a sniper rifle. What's the use of these? She asked. You'll know when you try. Without another word, Lambert reloaded his gun and fired at the helicopter. Everyone looked on anxiously. This bullet was the last hope of the world. The flow of time seemed to slow down. The bolt slid, and an empty brass shell was ejected. Fire and smoke spewed from the muzzle. The crimson bullet was pushed out of the muzzle by the kinetic energy of the primer. It spun, and danced. Under the kinetic energy, the bullet kissed the helicopter's bulletproof glass. The crimson bullet cracked open like a blooming lotus flower. A highly sticky, flammable gas quickly leaked out. Boom! The dazzling flames expanded, and the helicopter exploded into a huge fireball. The flames attached to the helicopter's armor, and it looked as if the armor had been set ablaze. The helicopter flew around like a drunkard. The pilot panicked as his vision was blocked by the flames. He spun around and left the battlefield. Everyone was shocked. They stared at the high explosive bullets. Even armor was set ablaze. What kind of bullet was that? Ma Qingyang was shocked. Where did you get this good stuff? We found a treasure. Li Yilin's eyes lit up. She quickly reloaded the high explosive bullets of a different caliber. She raised her gun and fired. The high explosive bullets turned a large number of off-road vehicles into fireballs. Even if they hit the ground, they would still create a sea of flames. The enemy's armor was heated, and the temperature in the enemy's vehicles rose rapidly. The flames burned through the gaps in the vehicles, and the engines, cylinders, and other key components began to overheat. The pursuing vehicles quickly dodged and had no time to attack. Lambert seized the opportunity and fired 2 more shots at the helicopter's rotor. The helicopter spun and left the battlefield. Ma Qingyang stepped on the accelerator and rushed into the back of the helicopter. The nervous pilot immediately took off, and the helicopter disappeared into the horizon. Chapter 52. Rescue completed. You have received 8,000 EXP, plus 100 Star Dragon Strategic Defense Department favorability. Brother Xiao, you're amazing. Lin Yao's eyes shone with admiration. You only realized it today? Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. Zhang Wei was very open-minded. He felt that he had suspected Han Xiao wrongly, so he apologized. I apologize for doubting your ability before. If it weren't for your leadership and new equipment, we would have been dead. As the captain, I welcome you to our team. Although the captain's welcome was late, it was better than not arriving at all, Zhang Wei thought to himself. Han Xiao smiled faintly. There's no need to apologize for such a small matter. I'm a generous person after all. Zhang Wei suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Why did it feel like he was being sarcastic? Han Xiao thought of something. By the way, who made your armor? Oh, this is the incomplete prototype of the combatant armor. It was a trophy obtained from Theseus a few years ago. Currently, we only have 1 prototype, and we're still working on the blueprints. However, the progress is slow, and even maintenance is troublesome. It's my equipment now. The prerequisite knowledge for the combatant armor was the advanced weapon branch, heavy machinery modification. This was the prerequisite skill for many individual mechas, exoskeleton armors, and large war vehicles. Theseus had only developed the prototype, so Star Dragon's development speed would definitely be even slower. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. Leave the maintenance of your armor to me in the future. Okay. Zhang Wei was overjoyed. After this operation, he trusted Han Zhao's ability. Li Yilin excitedly said in the earpiece, "Is this your new invention?" Han Xiao explained the functions of the high explosive ammunition to everyone. They were all experienced agents, so they immediately understood that this was a new type of incendiary bullet. It was similar to the armor-piercing incendiary bullet, but the degree of combustion was even higher. The armor-piercing incendiary bullet could pierce through armor. The impact of the incendiary bullet would generate heat, and it would only burn if there was something combustible around it. As for the high-explosive bullets, they used an unknown new type of incendiary. They didn't need to be heated by collision and could directly ignite the air. When attached to any object, they could ignite everything. The temperature was very high, and its power was equivalent to that of a highly concentrated Molotov cocktail. Furthermore, it could be fired with a firearm, and its speed and range were many times higher than that of a handheld projectile. It would be an extremely lethal weapon in a jungle environment, and it would bring more tactical options. Zhang Wei and the others witnessed with their own eyes how the Black Harrier helicopter, which was able to withstand armor-piercing bullets, was set ablaze by Lambert's 3 shots. It was completely different from how they used to fawn over him. The head of the logistics department, who had once thought highly of him, was not even willing to see him. He only sent a secretary to inform Luo Xian that he would be working in a small team in the future. Luo Xian instantly felt a sense of loss, and he couldn't help but wonder if he had made the wrong choice. If he hadn't been so arrogant and narrow-minded back then, he wouldn't have lost his mind and these things wouldn't have happened. I'm still too young. Luo Xian felt depressed. When Han Xiao heard about Luo Xian from Feng Jun, he was immediately shocked. Even he, the creator, didn't dare to open the high-explosive bullet after it was formed. That guy was really awesome. What a ferocious bunch. I'm impressed. Very soon, Han Xiao threw this matter to the back of his mind. His impression of Luo Xian was still only a name. Zhang Wei's combatant armor was sent to his workshop. The technology of the prototype was very rough. War armor, prototype, type, small full cover, single soldier armor quality, white basic attributes, 682/1, 400 armor, 35 defense, 86 power level, 250 energy requirements, 42 STR, 48 ND bonus attribute, -10 dex height, 1, 95 M weight, 370 LB control method, human control, no microchip, energy source, electricity battle consumption, 5 energy/min core power output, 125/130 onoskeleton module, spring piston shock absorber, reduces weight by 65%, slightly increases shock resistance. Power usage, 20 left arm module, large caliber triple barrel machine gun, as above. Right arm module, pop-up alloy blade. Attack, 12 to 15, power level, 9, power usage. 5 legs module, spring-powered running device. Plus 15 movement speed. 1 energy/min power usage. 30 accessory module. Simple thermal imaging device, no power usage, accessory module. Hexagonal heavy steel shield, no power usage, accessory ability. Thick armor. Reduces physical damage by 12% remarks. This is a disgrace to the world of armor. Simple. Han Xiao almost could not bear to look at it. First of all, not to mention the low power output, there was not even microchip installed. The microchip was the core of the mech. It was used to load various battle programs to assist the user in battle. Without a microchip, there was no way to quickly collect and process information on the battlefield. Without a wide area detection method, one could only rely on the naked eye to find the enemy. Furthermore, one's vision was limited by the helmet. How could this be played? No wonder Zhang Wei used strafing instead of point shooting. There was no way to aim. Speaking of power, only the legs were mechanically powered. There was not even an endoskeleton installed. The rest of the body was completely dependent on the user. He finally understood why Zhang Wei did not use the steel shield on his back. F*CK, it cannot be used. Furthermore, The outer armor was so crude that he could not bear to look at it directly. A few pieces of metal were simply welded together to form the armor. It showed the crudeness of Theseus everywhere. Even if this thing is a prototype, you still have to treat it seriously, you bastard. Han Zhao's mouth twitched as he sized up the warrior armor. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and tapped his arms rhythmically with his fingers. All sorts of ideas gradually appeared in his mind. However, there was no rush to modify it. Some ideas still needed to be learned and understood. Han Xiao hastily repaired it and asked Feng Jun to return it to Zhang Wei. Now, he had to consider another matter. The 3 German organization bases had been destroyed. What information should he give to Star Dragon next? The 3 bases were just the tip of the iceberg of the Germinal organization. There are no other Germinal organization bases in Star Dragon. Han Xiao then gave the location, and Star Dragon's troops had to leave the country to fight. The armed forces trespassing into another country's territory was openly starting a war. Although the 6 nations were secretly competing against each other, no one wanted to start a war at this time. The war between the old era and the new era had greatly depleted the national strength. The 6 nations were all recuperating and recovering from the wounds of the war. Whether or not they would fight in the future was still unknown. Therefore, cross-border battles required cooperation with other countries, which would increase the number of variables. Just relying on his intelligence was not enough. He had to go with the team to deal with any unexpected situations. The problem was whether the Star Dragon higher-ups would reject his request to leave the western capital. Feng Jun suddenly called. His tone was serious. Han Xiao, the Germinal organization's spies in the western capital have begun to move. They seem to know that you are working for us. I know. Han Xiao was very calm. When Li Yalan used the lightweight mechanical arm, he had already expected this situation. Don't worry, we have a large number of people in the vicinity to monitor you 24/7. The western capital was Division 13's territory. Even if the Germinal organization found his location, they would have to pay a high price to deal with him. However, he still had to be careful. Han Xiao knew that the Germinal organization had some super assassins that were very difficult to deal with. He should prepare some weapons for self-defense. Help me get 2 Berserk Eagle pistols from your department's warehouse. The Berserk Eagle was a handgun for close-range combat. It was known for its large caliber. Within 30 meters, its power was comparable to that of a sniper rifle. Beyond that, however, its power decreased rapidly. The combination of a high-powered pistol and slide shot could be considered as both offensive and defensive. Other than the pistols, he also needed to make close-range weapons. In the past 3 days, he had earned nearly 100,000 experience points from making high-explosive bullets. Without hesitation, Han Xiao spent 40,000 experience points to upgrade elementary refining to level 5, meeting the requirements for making platinum alloy. He needed to upgrade his equipment. A few days ago, when a leader found out that Zero's lightweight mechanical arm had appeared on a Star Dragon agent and connected the dots to the 3 military attacks on Star Dragon's bases, he could only conclude that Zero had joined Star Dragon and leaked information about the Germinal organization. Is this a supernatural incident? The leader could not understand. Zero had never come into contact with such information. How did he know the location of a secret base? He had not suspected Zero at all. He had thought that there was a mole and had almost killed one of the higher-ups. Zero's arrogant words from a month ago appeared in his mind. I will destroy you all. Is this what you're relying on? The leader clenched his fists, his eyes frightening. I underestimated you, but you're not qualified to be our enemy. I don't believe that you have so much confidential information. Pass down my order. Recruit some new faces and rogues. Send them to Star Dragon to investigate Zero's whereabouts. As long as they find anything, the organization will reward them handsomely. The leader's voice was cold and murderous. If they find anything, let Norsa deal with him. Norsa was the same rank as Hela. He was an executive officer of the Germinal organization, an assassin. Every executive officer had their own strengths. The number of executives in the Germinal organization had always been a secret. Even their own people did not know. The leader's eyes were deep. You think you can do whatever you want just because you joined Star Dragon? How naive. Chapter 54. The raw materials of platinum alloy were a few rare ores, which were more expensive. Han Xiao spent a lot of money to buy enough raw materials. Han Xiao synthesized platinum alloy and made a retractable machete and a lightweight mechanical arm. Its attributes were stronger than before, and the retractable machete even reached green quality. Retractable platinum machete quality. Green basic attributes. Attack 24 to 28. Durability 355 bonus attribute. Plus 3dx length. 0. 77 meters weight. 8. 7 pounds additional effect. Retractable. The blade can be retracted into the hilt additional effect. Impact resistance. Mixed with a small amount of platinum alloy to increase durability. Remark: this is a machete that can be used as a shield. Platinum alloy's characteristics were high durability and impact resistance, which made it very suitable for making armor. The next day, Feng Jun brought over 2 Berserk Eagle pistols. The barrels were longer than normal pistols, and Han Xiao tried firing a few shots. Within 30 meters, the kinetic energy of the bullets was comparable to that of a sniper rifle. A large hole was blasted in the head of the human-shaped target, and the recoil was very strong. If he was not careful, the crosshair would fly up. However, with his strength, he was able to control these 2 lethal weapons. In order to deal with the assassination that could happen at any time, Han Xiao carried 2 Berserk Eagles and retractable platinum machete with him at all times. The inner lining of his clothes was made into a pocket, and he carried 6 clips at all times. 2 of them were high-explosive bullets, and 4 were normal clips. The Berserk Eagle could only hold 8 bullets, and Han Xiao chose the normal clips. The steel core bullets had better penetrative power at close range, which was very suitable for the Berserk Eagle. Han Xiao looked at the interface. He had about 100,000 EXP left after the advancement, including the high-explosive bullets he had made recently, and after deducting the EXP from leveling up basic refining and energy training technique, he had about 200,000 EXP left. There was a saying in his previous life that after the first advancement, it was not worthwhile to increase the level of the main class. During that period of time, the players between level 20 and level 30 all chose to suppress their levels and put their experience into their skills to improve their actual combat abilities. No matter which version of Galaxy it was, level 20 to level 30 were the most difficult areas for PK in the wild. Once a character reached level 20, they would have a basic combat ability. Because the combat experience was very good, and the death penalty at this stage was relatively light, countless players would find people to PK in this level range. They would spend all their effort to learn skills and improve their combat ability. Gradually, there was a saying that it was more cost-effective to suppress one's level. It wasn't until the system broadcasted the ID of the first player who had reached the level cap of version 1.0 that everyone was shocked to discover that this bastard was the one who had first suggested the idea of suppressing the level cap. Damn you. Shameless old thief. Han Xiao did not want to suppress his level. He was not restricted by the game version's level restriction, and this was a huge advantage. No matter how much experience he had, it would be a waste if he did not convert it into combat power. He might as well directly spend 180,000 experience and level up 3 times. Mechanic Apprentice leveled up. Plus 30 energy, plus 1 DX, plus 1 END, plus 3 INT. You have received 3 free attribute points. You have received 1 potential point. X3 he had trained energy training technique 10 times in the past few days, which gave him an additional 30 energy. Han Zhao's energy had reached 280, reaching level 4. He had received a new attribute bonus. Energy level 4, 200, plus 3 STR, plus 4 DX, plus 5 END, plus 4 INT, plus 150 stamina limit, plus 4% machinery power, plus 4% manufacturing speed energy bonus, plus 10 STR, plus 10 DX, plus 14 END, plus 8 INT, plus 320 stamina limit, plus 10% machinery quality, and plus 10% manufacturing speed, which was almost a third of his basic attributes. Mechanics relied on machines to fight, so it was definitely not wrong to increase intelligence. In order to escape from the laboratory, Han Xiao had added quite a lot of STR and Yindi to increase his HP. Now that he did not need to do so, he put all 9 free attribute points into intelligence, which was as high as 58. The speed and quality of machinery he built, as well as the power of machinery he used, would all be greatly increased. Mechanic Apprentice, Level 4, Level 24, Energy rank of 160 Ona. Based on my current development, when the open beta starts, my strength will be several levels higher than the first batch of players. I'm afraid that the players won't be able to come into contact with me in the near future, Han Xiao thought to himself. The players also needed time to level up, so they would not be able to interact much with him in the near future. Suddenly, the notification of the interface sounded in his mind. After reading the content, he was stunned. Closed beta? Han Xiao was shocked. How could he have forgotten about this? Han Xiao vaguely remembered that there had been a 2-day closed beta in his previous life. The ratio of in-game time to real-life time was 6:1, which was equivalent to 12 days in the game. Galaxy was built and managed by the latest generation of photon computers, completely eliminating manual labor. The closed beta was only a test run, so the time was very short. There were only 30,000 slots, and most of them were taken up by the big guilds and professional clubs. The remaining slots were decided by lottery among the millions of applicants. Han Zhao's luck had been depleted back then, so he did not stand out. According to his memory, the closed beta took place a week before the open beta. In terms of game time, it should only be slightly more than a month, but he still had more than 130 days left before the open beta. Han Xiao had a conjecture that he had not thought about before. Could it be that before the players appear, there is no connection between the in-game time and real-life time? Yes, that should be it. Every time a version is updated, it only takes 2 to 3 days in real life, but the time span in Galaxy is calculated in years. This was undoubtedly good news. Every time a version was updated, he would have more time to develop than the players, but it seemed that he was starting to worry about his lifespan. Han Xiao touched his chin. It felt prickly and stubble. He had been in Galaxy for more than half a year. Han Xiao suddenly recalled one of the most controversial versions back then, the Chosen One. This was the most brainless version unanimously recommended by the players. Unlike the disasters and huge events in the other versions, this version was harmonious and did not have a theme at all. It did not match the name of the version at all. It was as if it was just for the players to explore as they pleased. NPC template function unlocked. Player forum unlocked. 2 new notifications appeared, and Han Xiao was shocked. NPC function? There is no introduction at all? After looking at it for a long time, there was only a lonely interface notification floating in front of his eyes. It seemed that he had to figure it out himself. Connecting the dots, he should have the functions of an NPC to the players, such as issuing missions, selling goods, teaching skills, and so on. The 30,000 closed beta players were spread over a dozen novice planets, with 1,000 to 2,000 players on each planet. It would not affect the overall situation at all. The closed beta was just an appetizer. The public beta would be the source of the chaos when the players arrived en masse in the future. However, for Han Xiao, the closed beta was a good opportunity to verify his conjecture. As long as he came into contact with the players, he would be able to test the specific functions of the NPC. The other notification, Player Forum, was a function that Han Xiao was very familiar with. This was the built-in official forum. When the players died and were waiting to be revived, they would browse the forum for entertainment. Han Xiao was no exception. I didn't expect the forum to be unlocked for me. It should only be when the players arrive, when the real time and the game time are connected, that I can open the forum. That's why the forum is unlocked now. The entrance to the forum was at the corner of the interface. After clicking in, the familiar forum interface appeared in front of him. At this time, there were no posts, and it was empty. He looked at the account at the top right corner. At this time, it showed that he was a visitor but the registration option was gray. Han Xiao clicked on registration out of curiosity, and an unexpected notification appeared. Detecting nerve connection in the gaming pod. No players detected, unable to register. Han Xiao was stunned and immediately understood. The official forum had a rule that only players who entered the gaming pod could register and post. Visitors could only browse to prevent the forum from being polluted. If one wanted to post and reply, they had to buy a gaming pod. As the saying went, the market decided everything. When the cost was too high, the internet would be wiped out. The official forum environment was more harmonious, and the water was clear. Looks like I'll never be able to register an account on the forum. Han Xiao was not depressed. It was a surprise that he could activate the forum. At least he could read the posts of the players and know what the players were up to. Han Xiao had always had a question. Did he really exist in real life? To figure this out, he had to pay attention to the forum and see if his previous ID would appear. Of course, he could not rule out the possibility of his ID changing. Since the players have appeared, it's best to find a chance to interact with them. Han Xiao's eyes flashed. Nickname, Mad Blade Angry Sword. Normal opening selected. Character creation completed. Race, carbon-based human, yellow. According to your preference, you have been assigned the beginner's planet, blue star. Randomizing the beginner's birthplace. Randomization complete. Starting point, Bighorn Mountain Settlement, coordinates, 24. 152,182, 644. Spawning in progress. Please wait patiently. P.S. Thank you to Z. 9 Day Sky High. Wind Kick. Book Friend 20170 3040 7570 8622. Tang Chao Huangzi. Walking Fairy. And Half Dead for their tips. Chapter 55. Bighorn Village Settlement. One of the starting points of Blue Star. Mad Blade angry, Sword's vision blurred, and he found himself in a square. The ground beneath his feet was yellow, and the rough air rushed into his nose. He could even feel the warmth of the sun. He lowered his head and pinched his arms. The texture of his muscles was almost the same as in real life, and he was amazed. This was a small square, and there were hundreds of players standing around, looking at each other curiously. He could see the player IDs above their heads. There were many wooden and stone camps around, and NPCs wearing simple animal skin clothes were wandering around in twos and threes. They were pointing at him and seemed to be whispering. Mad Blade Angry Sword followed the beginner's guide and opened the interface to check the attributes of his level 1 character. It was the same as the information on the official website, and the beginner's starting point was a 3-piece set, which was a cloth shirt, pants, and boots that would never drop. He noticed that a guy beside him was trying to take off his pants, but it was a waste of energy. He said regretfully, "Can't asterisk, 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 asterisk. Bad review." What the hell? What kind of words did you use? What are you trying to do? Mad Blade Angry Sword was shocked and quietly moved away from that guy. Mad Blade Angry Sword was an unknown professional player. He had just entered the professional circle and was still a newbie. He heard that the International Gaming Alliance had started to prepare for the professional league before Galaxy was released, and he paid a lot of attention to it. When the closed beta test was released, Mad Blade Angry Sword asked the club's top management to give him a precious place in the closed beta test. Frenzied Sword was full of ambition. As long as he was one step ahead of others during the pioneering period, he would be able to take the lead step by step. The players in the square were talking about it. It's so real. What should we do now? Are there any hints? At this time, an old Caucasian man with white hair and a white beard came in front of the crowd and said loudly, "Hey, you outsiders. You outsiders, if you want to eat your fill, then find me a job. Our settlement doesn't welcome idlers. Well, we need people to harvest the crops in the fields. The tailor shop and weapon shop in the south also need skilled workers. A batch of goods has just arrived at the entrance of the settlement, and we need people to load and unload them. In short, you won't starve to death as long as you work hard." The players noticed that beside their health points, there were 2 boxes. They were hunger and thirst. Once these 2 dropped to 0, The debuff of hunger and thirst would appear. Their attributes would be weakened, and their health points would continuously decrease until they died. Madblade used Detect on the old man. Based on your level, you have received the following information: Frowny Face Andre, Village Chief, Bighorn Village Settlement level. Attributes. You can think of him as the Novice Village Head, Danger level. Medium players had the detection function, which allowed them to see the NPC's name and information. However, if the level gap was too large, the information would be missing. The color of an NPC's name represented their faction. Green was friendly, yellow was neutral, and red was hostile. The danger level was the difference in strength between the player and the target. Since the players were all level 1 beginners, they could not see Andre's specific attributes. The weapon shop sells guns, ammunition, and melee weapons. There are many people selling food and water in the market. You can rent a pack horse from the beast farm in the west. If you want to leave, there is a public train station a few kilometers north. If you want to learn all kinds of life skills, blacksmiths and tailors are good choices. According to Andre's description, the players had a general understanding of the situation. The settlement could only allow a few life sub-professions and a beginner hunter combat profession, and they would have to spend money to find someone to train them. The player's map was now filled with fog of war, and it was dark. More information about the background of the planet, the map, the power structure, and so on had to be explored before the interface map could be lit up. There were many elements to be explored, and Madblade felt like he was in Maiden of Scrolls 21. At the end of the day, everything in the beginning required money. So, it was necessary to do life quests to earn money at the beginning. I wonder if we could do monster hunting quests directly? One of the guild leaders asked. Madblade recognized him. It was the leader of the Kill-All Guild, Slice You Up. Just by looking at his name, one could guess his personality. He was most likely from the Guangdong province of China. Unexpectedly, Xander muttered a few words about what he meant by hunting monsters. Then he burst into laughter. You must be tired of living if you want to hunt wild beasts with your puny bodies. Do you see that mountain range? If you're not afraid of death, go ahead and hunt in the mountains. I'll reward you according to the prey you hunt. But in my opinion, you can't even beat the weakest grayback hyena. Everyone looked over and saw a lush forest in the distance. The mountains were so tall that they seemed to be able to pierce through the sky. Clouds surrounded the peaks like giant pythons coiling around the mountains. The magnificent scenery made many players intoxicated. The details were too realistic. It was a complete contrast to the textures of other virtual morks. Slice You Up did not believe it. He led a few of the guild's elders and bought a crude melee weapon with 100 aquamarine dollars. They immediately ran to the mountain. Not long after, this group of people walked back dejectedly. Slice You Up's expression was terrible. The beast he encountered was a gorilla that was bigger than a human. As soon as he raised his sword, the gorilla threw feces at him and his head exploded. He randomly respawned nearby and cursed in his heart. Why does a monkey attack by throwing feces? Does it have to be so realistic? Slice You Up could still smell the smell of fate. Slice You Up's stomach churned and he wanted to vomit. He did not object to the realism of the details, but adding flavor to the feces was definitely the developer's bad taste. F***CK. The monster is too strong. I died before I could see it clearly. I only lost 1 HP after slashing it. F***CK. I dropped the rough stone sword that I just bought. Experience points would be deducted upon death, and the value depended on the total level. The respawn time would be stacked continuously. The first death would only take 10 seconds, the second one would take 1 minute, the third one would take 5 minutes, and the fourth one would take half an hour. The respawn time would be reset every 6 days. The death penalty was not light. The players could only die 10 times in 6 days. Once the number of times was maxed out, they would be forced to go offline and wait until the next day in real life. It was said that this was the latest anti-addiction measure, and it was more effective than the fatigue mechanism in Sky Island and Maiden. After the students died a day, they could only go offline to study. After Galaxy introduced this setting, the Yang's internet addiction treatment technology, which had been passed down for decades, was the first to receive a negative review. It was probably because the business was affected. The players immediately gave up on the idea of killing monsters and focused on earning money. Hundreds of players were busy completing missions and contributing to the socialist construction of Bighorn Village. Andre stroked his beard with a gratified expression. This group of outsiders was very hardworking, and there was value in training them. The reward is too little, only 50 renminbi. Leveling up is so slow. It took me half an hour to earn enough experience to level up. The controls are so realistic. I can even lose HP by hitting myself. That's awesome. Are you an idiot? The beginning of the game was challenging, but it was not pure torture. While it provided players with a high degree of freedom, it also gave them new targets to choose from. It was very interesting, and it made them grit their teeth while they enjoyed the game. This feeling of pain and happiness made the players think of the game developer's wife in 18 different poses. Today, we are all Lao Wan. Are you a professional player too? Mad Blade heard someone calling him. He turned around and saw 3 players walking towards him. Mad Blade knew the 3 of them. They were all super players in the professional circle. The genius player, Twinkle Fried Rice, the super player, Sleepy Winter, who had been competing in various virtual game professional league for 10 years, and the esports beauty, Rainy Kim, who had millions of fans. The one who spoke was none other than Sleepy Winter. Mad Blade felt that he was inferior when facing these experts in the same industry. He asked nervously, "What's the matter?" Sleepy Winter smiled and said, "I'm not sure if you noticed, but the price of the map in the market is 3,000 aquamarine dollars. The reward for a newbie is too little, so basically no one would buy a map. P.S. Thank you to Monk Hairdresser for tipping him with 5,000 aquamarine dollars. Chapter 56. There were 3 types of beta testers. The first type were the casual players who won the lottery. The second type were the players who worked in the big guilds. And the third type were the professional players who obtained the slots through different channels. The last 2 types of beta testers wanted to be the first to explore new maps. The beta tester only has 12 days of game time, so there's not much point in doing beginner missions. You should have also noticed that players have a high degree of freedom. If you want to establish an advantage, you should explore the map. This is the true way to explore a new map. Now is the golden period without competitors. Outside of the novice village, everything is a virgin land with countless opportunities. Mad Blade finally understood. The beta tester's time was limited, and it would be a waste to stay in one place to do quests. Maybe they were a few levels higher than the beta testers, but as everyone's level increased, the difference would become insignificant. The world was like a gold mine that no one had set foot on. There were so many places and forces, and as long as they were the first to explore, they would be able to obtain endless quests and resources. As a player, being trapped in one place to do quests was naturally not as interesting as exploring new maps. Why are you telling me this? Mad Blade asked. We're all competitors. Isn't it just one more competitor? Sleepy Winter smiled. Those big guilds will realize this problem sooner or later. They have many people, so it's easy for them to gather enough money to buy the map. So, we need to team up. Me, Fried Rice, Rainy, and I have already formed a small team. How about you join us? There was no need to hesitate. Mad Blade agreed without hesitation. How are we going to split 3,000 yuan? Twinkle Fried Rice asked curiously. I'm the initiator, so I'll contribute the most, Sleepy Winter said. I don't like to owe people, so I'll contribute 1,000 yuan. That's all, Rainy Kim said coldly. She turned around and left to do quests, not willing to waste a single second. Sleepy Winter smiled bitterly and scratched his nose. We've known each other for a few years, so why are you being so polite? Give me a chance to chase you, okay? A day later, the 4 of them gathered again and gathered enough money to buy the map. After looking at it, many areas on the interface were lit up and the fog of war was much less. The map also came with basic information about Blue Star Society. The 4 of them learned about the 6 nations, the Germinal Organization, and the Rogue Warlords. After reading it, Sleepy Winter furrowed his brows and said, according to the content, the biggest factions are the 6 nations, and the Germinal organization. The Six Nations seem to have official academies and dojos, and they're also recruiting soldiers, which makes it easier to get a main class. So, we have to choose a faction. I think Star Dragon is a good choice. No one objected because they were the closest. Bighorn Mountain Settlement was located within the borders of Star Dragon Nation. The public train transit station was not far from here. Train transit stations like this could be found everywhere in the wilderness. Some were public facilities set up by the country, while some were transport routes of other forces. These transit stations were the means of transportation in the wilderness. They were fast and safe, and one could take them for free. If they weren't afraid of encountering wild beasts, they could also drive their own car or ride a wild beast as a mount to cross the mountains. Sleepy Winter nodded. Time is of the essence. If you want to go, let's go to the capital. It will take about 3 days. Mad Blade Furious Sword was a little regretful. 3 days had been wasted, but he didn't want to quit now. He had already spent the money, so how could he give up halfway? The train was crowded, and the passengers could also trigger some small missions, but it was better than nothing. However, they couldn't skip the travel time, which made it very difficult for the 4 professional players. Fortunately, they could pass the time by browsing the forums, or they would have been bored to death. Players from various novice planets shared their experiences on the forums. The few of them were very interested, except for Mad Blade Furious Sword. He was very nervous, counting the seconds, and his heart was bleeding. To him, this was a waste of precious beta testing time. 3 days later, the train arrived at the Western capital. Looking at the bustling Western capital through the iron wire barrier, a new notification popped up on everyone's interface. Star Dragon Capital discovered. Reward, small amount of EXP. So, exploring a map gives EXP too. Twinkle Fried Rice looked around curiously. He was surprised by the authenticity of the passers-by. Even the looks of disdain were so vivid. The 4 of them followed the crowd and were checked at the sentry post. The soldiers used all kinds of equipment to check their bodies, and all the indicators lit up. After passing the sentry post, the soldiers gave them a new item, a temporary Star Dragon ID card. Twinkle Fried Rice suddenly froze. Camp notification, he exclaimed. Mad Blade Furious Sword also noticed it. A new camp had appeared on his interface. Star Dragon. Favorability, 0. Current status, indifferent. Current status, temporary citizen. Sleepy Winter looked at everyone and said, So, are we going to form a team or go solo? I'll go with you. Twinkle Fried Rice laughed. He and Sleepy Winter were from the same club, so of course they would form a team. Rainy Kim also chose to form a team with Sleepy Winter. Since they were all familiar with each other, it would be more convenient for them to work together. She tilted her head and said seriously, Don't bully me. Sleepy Winter didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had known Rainy Kim for a few years, and he knew that she would always act cute with a straight face, even if it was unintentional. The 3 of them bantered for a while before Sleepy Winter looked at Mad Blade Furious Sword and asked casually, What about you? Frenzied Sword looked at the 3 of them, chatting happily. He was reminded of the fact that he was just a newbie and felt a sense of inferiority. Throughout the journey, he had not been able to join in on the conversation. He felt like he was just a bystander, and this feeling made him feel uncomfortable. He waved his hand cautiously and stammered, No, it's fine. I like to be alone. All right then, let's play together in the future. Sleepy Winter didn't mind, and the 3 of them left together. Mad Blade Furious Sword looked at the backs of the 3 of them and felt a little indignant. He muttered to himself, I'll squeeze into your circle sooner or later. The closed beta was a great opportunity for him to rise up. Now that he was in the Western capital, it was obviously a high-level area. There were many quests that could be triggered. He was on the same starting point as Bright Moon, Fried Rice, and Rainy Kim. With his strength, he could definitely make a name for himself. Frenzied Sword braced himself and was about to take a step forward when he suddenly noticed a young man wearing a mask staring at him from the side of the sentry post. His eyes were deep and profound. Frenzied Sword felt as if he was being watched. He shuddered and instinctively used Detect on him. Based on your level, you can only receive the following information. Han Xiao Dash. Yellow name. Level. Stats. Danger level. Extremely fatal. PS. Thank you for the bounty. I've recorded all the bounty in my little notebook. I'll add more when I put it up. Chapter 57. Extremely deadly. Mad Blade swallowed his saliva nervously. Even the armed guards on the train were only rated as high. This was the most dangerous person he had ever met. Other than the name, all his data were question marks. What kind of person was this? Shouldn't the city be safe? Was he going to sacrifice his virginity today? At this moment, Han Xiao spoke, and his first sentence almost made Mad Blade fall to the ground. It's very rude to detect people the moment you meet them. Mad Blade shuddered. According to the official website, players who use detection NPCs would be detected if there was a level difference of more than 30 levels. How could he meet such a powerful person the moment he entered the city? Han Xiaoxin laughed in his heart. You think I don't know you guys? I used detection when I met you too. Ever since he received the news of the beta test, Han Xiao had been thinking about getting in touch with the players. He found a starting point of all the new players on the map. The closest one was Bighorn Village, which was only a 3-day journey away. However, the German organization was looking for him everywhere, and Han Xiao did not want to leave the Western capital so easily. Only beta testers were allowed to make posts. Han Xiao paid attention to the forums and soon found a post that analyzed the advantages of the beta test. The ID of the post was Sleepy Winter, a god-level professional gamer who often made posts about strategies and guidance. He was a good guy, handsome, and had a huge fan base. He was also a strong player who had won many honors. In his previous life, he had always been in the top 30 of the Huaxiao region's top players list. Han Zhao's best result was the 47th place, and he had even fallen out of the top 100 in the past few years. Thus, he came to a conclusion: stay away from girls and have a successful career. Han Xiao told this conclusion to the 28-year-old single owner of the small store downstairs. The owner only smiled coldly and said, "Well said, but I choose girls." But girls don't choose you. As a result, Han Xiao lost the right to enjoy a 9.5% discount in the store. There were many types of competitions in Galaxy, such as individual battles, ring battles, team battles, mission battles, limited-time free exploration competitions, hunting and survival competitions, positional attack and defense competitions, racing and pursuit competitions, mixed killing competitions, secret realm competitions, and so on. Small-scale duels only accounted for part of the strength. Han Xiao had been helping people seek revenge all year round, so his skill was outstanding, but he was not that good in other aspects. For example, he was not good at trash-talking, which was said to be a divine weapon against enemies, but he had always been practicing it well. After reading the post, Han Xiao guessed that there might be closed beta players in the Western capital. A few days ago, he had been loitering around the sentry post. As soon as the 4 professional players passed through the sentry post, he saw them. It wasn't that Han Zhao's eyesight was good, but he discovered that he could actually see the names above the players' heads. Wow, what a group of dazzling class IDs. They were all famous players in his previous life. It was hard not to notice them. Is it because I have the interface? Han Xiaoxin wondered. This was good news. Players had the detection function, so they could see the names of all NPCs. He could also recognize players in a sea of people. Am I an NPC with the functions of a player or a player with the functions of an NPC? Han Xiaoxin couldn't help but complain. This time, he came into contact with the players to see if his NPC functions were strong enough. Brave warrior, I need help. Do you have time? The standard opening line for a mission was cute. Mad Blade was stunned. Although he didn't know why Han Xiao was looking for him, it didn't stop him from getting excited. I've just entered the Western capital, and I've already triggered a high-level NPC. This is definitely my lucky day. Mad Blade was extremely excited. He tried to keep his tone as calm as possible. I'm willing to help. I need a loaf of bread. Can you find it? As soon as he finished speaking, Han Xiao suddenly received a notification. Do you want to issue a mission to Mad Blade? It's here. Speaking of which, my interface can actually give me NPC functions. Could it be that it can digitize all my actions? Maybe this isn't a normal player's interface. Maybe it changed when I transmigrated. It feels pretty cool. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. Next, it was time to test out the specific effects. Yes, please set the mission requirements and rewards. There is a limit to the EXP reward. The limit depends on your level, grade, faction influence, and legendary points. P.S. You have the right to give additional material rewards. It could be anything that belongs to you. Money, items, EXP, skills, and a illusory box appear in front of him. It was divided into two sides. On the left side, he could choose the type of mission. There were normal missions, prize pool missions, competitive missions, challenge missions, series missions, running missions, faction missions, and so on. On the right side was the limit. It was divided into two categories: maximum reward limit and daily limit. Currently, the EXP limit was 11,600, and the description was listed below. Maximum reward limit: 11600 EXP total, level 24, plus 7,200 after advancement. The EXP increase for each level will increase. The first advancement will increase by 300 EXP, grade E, plus 3,000 faction, Germinal organization, aggro, plus 1,000, division 13, neutral, plus 400 legendary points. 0. The maximum reward limit was the maximum reward for a single mission. This meant that Han Xiao could only set a maximum of 11,600 EXP for a single mission. As the name suggested, the daily limit was the maximum reward that could be given in a day. Currently, it was 5 times the maximum reward limit, which was 58,000 EXP. It refreshed once every 24 hours. After Han Xiao tried it, he realized that this function was limited. If his maximum reward limit did not reach the basic reward limit of the mission difficulty, the mission would fail. For example, if he issued a mission to destroy the Germinal organization, the difficulty of the mission would be grade A, and the minimum reward for grade A missions would be much higher than his limit, so the mission would fail. With the limit of 11,600, he could only issue grade E normal missions. The minimum requirement for grade D missions was 30,000 EXP. Furthermore, there were different types of missions with different limits. There was no description on the interface, so Han Xiao could only try one by one. If the mission failed, there would be a notification. It would be great if I could change the limit to my own EXP. Han Xiao whimsically tried it, but it did not work. The limit did not belong to him, and he could not issue missions for himself. The targets were limited to players. This also confirmed his guess that he was not a player, but he had the interface. Han Xiao pursed his lips. He only received 20,000 EXP a day, but he had a reward limit of nearly 60,000 EXP. If he put all his effort into training a player, his progress would soar. However, he would not do that. This function seems to be able to command players. Han Xiao's eyes suddenly sparkled. He immediately realized the various uses of this function. The most obvious one was to attract players to do missions and become his helpers, which could be very useful in many situations. Players' interests were paramount, and they could be treated as a group of mercenaries. As long as the rewards were good, they could be used. Players would not waste time on missions with low rewards. If you want a horse to run, you have to feed the horse. Thus, increasing the limit was imperative. The higher the limit, the more help it would be to him. In addition to the EXP limit, Han Xiao could also use his own items as additional rewards. Han Xiao suddenly understood. No matter what game it was, only powerful or influential high-level NPCs would issue high rewards and high difficulty missions. The principle was similar to his limit, but the interface showed it to him. Han Xiao randomly set a normal mission and issued it. At the same time, Mad Blade received the mission and was dumbfounded. What the hell? Is a high-level NPC's mission so easy? It only requires a piece of bread, and the reward is only $1. Are you King Poor? Wait. Frenzied Sword seemed to have realized something. Based on his experience playing virtual reality games, this should be a prerequisite quest, a test. Only by satisfying the NPC would the follow-up mission be triggered. If he failed, he would miss the opportunity to meet this NPC. The more Mad Blade thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. He directly took out 7 pieces of bread, This was all the food he had, and handed them to Han Shao. He said sincerely, "This is all the bread I have on me. I'm giving it to you." Han Shao was confused. What's going on? Are the players now used to overcompleting missions? Why is this different from what I remember? After taking the bread, the mission notification said that everything had gone smoothly. Han Shao nodded. There were many types of missions, and Han Shao did not plan to try them all immediately. He wanted to test the other NPC functions first. Han Shao noticed that next to Mad Blade's ID, a small symbol appeared. Han Shao focused on the symbol, and a new notification appeared on the interface. An illusory thing that looked like a health bar appeared in front of him. Only he could see that a small pointer stopped in the middle. The left was red, and the right was green. Do you want to adjust the favorability of Mad Blades? This thing can be adjusted? Han Shao was dumbfounded. Will this change my mind? If I max it all out, will I suddenly become gay? No, I can't take the risk. Han Shao tried to move the pointer to the right. No, to the left, and the favorability decreased by 5 points. He found that his thoughts did not change, and he was relieved. Luckily, the favorability was only a numerical value and did not affect his true thoughts. This function seems a bit useless. Han Shao thought. Han Zhao's favorability decreased by 5 points. Current relationship is cold. Why would the favorability decrease after completing the mission? Mad Blade was dumbfounded. What the hell? Chapter 58. After figuring out the favorability function, Han Shao thought about it and felt that he had the function of selling things to players, so he let out a creepy laugh. Kid, you're not bad. I have high hopes for you. I will only sell things to the fated ones. Mad Blade was going crazy, but when he heard this, he was dumbfounded again. Yeah, he lowered the favorability and still said that he had high hopes for me. Is the favorability in the game calculated in reverse? Why is this NPC laughing so creepily? So scary. I feel a chill down my spine. So F*** King Evil. Do you want to open Mad Blade Angry Blade as personal shop? Han Shao raised his eyebrows. Yes. An illusory box that looked like a mission appeared in front of him, and it was split into two sides. The left side was Item Shop, which indicated that he could place his items in the list even if they were not on him. The right side was Skill Shop, where he could place his skills. Han Shao tried placing a few items. Please set a price for the item. Note, the price can be in currency, EXP, or barter. You can also set the purchase conditions, including but not limited to favorability, level, skill, class. The universe was vast, and there were many types of currencies. Aquamarine Dollar was only the currency of Blue Star, and the only currency in the universe was Anus. The type of currency could be set freely, but the prerequisite was that one had come into contact with it. This function is really complete, Han Shao exclaimed. Suddenly, he realized that if he set a favorability limit for the item, wouldn't the favorability adjustment turn from useless to bait? Oh my, isn't this the method developers use to keep players? Seduce, attract players to increase the favorability of the NPC and forcefully increase the playtime of the players. Back then, he had to complete dozens of difficult missions to increase his reputation with the Radiant Federation, to respect and buy the glory grade main ship. Is this the song of a serf turning from the great freedom fighter of the proletariat into an unforgivable, corrupt member of the capitalist class? Amazing, my interface. Han Shao set the item and confirmed the release. A shop interface appeared in front of Mad Blade Angry Blade. He looked at it, and his eyes were immediately attracted. He could not help but open his mouth wide, and his face turned red. Divine equipment, retractable knife, high explosive bullets, Type 73 Wasp pistol, Jason submachine gun, military knife rifle. Mad Blade's eyes turned red when he saw the attributes of the equipment. To him, these were all godly equipment. If he had these equipment, he would definitely be several levels ahead of all the other players. When he looked at the price again, it was as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over him. He felt cold from head to toe, and his heart turned cold. Even the cheapest high-explosive bullets cost 100 each. Why don't you just rob a bank? Also, The lightweight mechanical arm required a favorability of 10 and above. Based on the NPC's quest to decrease favorability, did this mean that I would never be able to obtain this equipment? No wonder the danger level is extremely fatal. This NPC is not someone that I should come into contact with at my level. The item shop made Mad Blade so angry that he was about to go crazy. When he looked at the skill shop, he was instantly revived. Basic combat, basic shooting, grappling. Just these common skills alone were enough to make Frenzied Sword drool. When he looked further down, he was immediately dumbfounded. Mechanic class knowledge for class advancement. There were also a bunch of mechanic class skills, but the one that shocked Mad Blade the most was none other than energy training technique. Godly skill. Mad Blade screamed in his heart. Han Xiao suddenly shook his head. Too bad you're not a mechanic. You can't learn my skills. Mad Blade was stunned. He was in a dilemma. He had already considered Han Xiao as a mysterious teacher or a hidden NPC. This was definitely a rare opportunity. If he could learn from him, his growth speed would crush all the other players. However, he favored the pugilist class more. This could be seen from his ID. After counting the money and experience he had, Mad Blade finally made up his mind. It was just enough for him to learn basic mechanic knowledge. If he did not grab this opportunity, he would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. I'll bet. I won't lose this time. Do you want to change your class to mechanic? Yes. Basic weapon knowledge has been learned. You have received 500 EXP and 100 aquamarine dollars. The cost of Mad Blade skills would be handed over to Han Xiao. It was like school fees. Teaching skills was equivalent to teaching, and his skills would not change. The skills that Han Xiao chose to show were all carefully considered. First, he would definitely not sell the advancement knowledge and blueprints. He also did not show active combat skills like slide shot. Most of the skills that he taught were skills that could be easily obtained by players. Of course, most of the players did not know this yet. For example, energy training technique would definitely be awakened after the first advancement at level 20. However, looking at how excited Mad Blade was, it was obvious that he did not know this. Selling a skill that players would definitely learn in the future was like trying to get something for nothing. However, Han Xiao knew the theory of hunger marketing. He set the price of energy training technique at 10,000 EXP and 3,000 aquamarine dollars. This was a huge sum for a newbie. Furthermore, he set the favorability level of Mad Blade to above 10. Thinking of this, Han Xiao quickly changed the favorability level of Mad Blade back to 0. He had to give his customers some confidence and hope. Mad Blade immediately misunderstood. He thought that Han Xiao liked to make deals, and only by buying things could he increase his favorability level. He secretly decided that he would patronize Han Xiao's business more in the future. After testing the basic functions of the NPC, Han Xiao completed his goal and walked away. Why don't go? I want to follow you, boss. Frenzied Sword panicked. Where can I find you in the future? He asked. Han Xiao paused for a moment and wrote down the address of the repair shop on a piece of paper. He gave it to Mad Blade and walked away. Frenzied Sword carefully put away the note as if he had found a treasure. He was excited. This is my opportunity. Those powerful mechanical equipment and skills were enough for him to be ahead of all the players. With such an advantage, he could definitely stand out. However, the prerequisite was that this opportunity had to be enjoyed by him alone. Mad Blade thought to himself, I can't let anyone find out about this hidden NPC. The few beta testers were like a drop of water in a big city like the Western capital. They were not eye-catching, and they were all poor people. Han Xiao was not interested in them at the moment. This trip was only to test the functions of the NPC. He was very satisfied with the result and started to think of all sorts of ways to scam the players. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes, and his thoughts drifted away. Scenes from his memories appeared one after another, and they were dyed with hazy colors. In Han Xiao's previous life, Frenzied Sword was one of the first batch of professional players to participate in Galaxy. He was an expert in the pugilist class. In the first season, he was in the limelight and became one of the top 24 players in the Huaxia region. He went out of the country to fight against foreign enemies. This honor made Frenzied Sword famous and established his position. However, now a future god-level pugilist player had been tricked into becoming a mechanic. It was hard to say what would happen in the future. At the very least, he would not have a chance to make a name for himself in the first and second season. He had missed out on the achievement that should have been his and walked on another path. The reason Han Xiao dared to choose the mechanic class was because he knew that the mechanic class would be extremely powerful in the later stages of the game. However, the current players obviously did not know this. The mechanic class was relatively weak in the early stages of the game. There were countless mechanic players who changed their accounts because they felt that their future was bleak, and most of them were professional players. Why do I feel like I've scammed him? Chapter 59. There were plenty of job opportunities in the West Capital. Players could join the Star Dragon Army at the Sentry Post. There were also some gangs in the slums of District 8 that were recruiting only men, which fully exposed the discrimination against women in the workplace. There were also countless daily quests in the shops along the streets. Players could trigger daily quests such as missing wallet or catching cat on a tree by grabbing onto a random passerby. There were also many shops that were hiring part-time workers that could earn them money. This confirmed Sleepy Winter's speculation that the new map was full of opportunities. Of course, the Western Capital was a high-level map, and there were many places that weren't open to beginners. Sleepy Winter and the other two also ran into problems at times. Rainy Kim had heard that she was going to the Western Capital Academy, but she was rejected at the entrance. Twinkle Fried Rice had gone to the First District, but he was chased out by the sentry at gunpoint. He had almost lost his virginity. The next day, Sleepy Winter, Rainy Kim, and Twinkle Fried Rice decided to join the Star Dragon Army and become soldiers. They finally unlocked the combat class, recruit, and they had a lot of fun with the various training quests. Their faction had also changed from Star Dragon Nation to Star Dragon Army, and their status had also changed to private. Sleepy Winter didn't forget about Frenzied Sword as well. They added each other as friends while they were in the car. Sleepy Winter kindly told Frenzied Sword that he could join the army, but Frenzied Sword only said a few perfunctory words before hanging up the call. This made Sleepy Winter gloomy. Thinking that Frenzied Sword wasn't interested in joining the army, he shook his head and ignored him. What Sleepy Winter didn't know was that Mad Blade didn't care about the opportunity he mentioned. He was completely focused on hugging Han Xiao's thick thighs. In order to test the limits of the quests, Han Xiao continuously gave Mad Blade all sorts of quests, including kick 10 passers-by, take off the pants of a patrolling policeman, spin around like a little swan for 5 minutes, stick up your butt and shout stand still 3 times, and so on. After testing out, Han Xiao was finally certain that as long as his reward could reach the standard of difficulty, he could issue any mission with no restrictions. Mad Blade, on the other hand, felt like he was about to die. These missions were full of bad taste, making him more and more terrified of Han Xiao. Just being stared at by Han Xiao made him feel a chill rush from his crotch to his head. However, the EXP that Han Xiao gave was several times more than the beginner's quest. For the sake of the EXP, Mad Blade personally shattered his pure and flawless heart and followed Han Xiao's orders. Why are my eyes filled with hot tears? It's a desperate accusation against this hardcore world. The reward of abandoning his principles allowed him to level up quickly. He learned various basic skills from Han Xiao and contributed a lot of EXP to Han Xiao. Although the closed beta was out of Han Xiao's expectations, it did not affect the overall situation. The closed beta players scattered all over Blue Star were just a drop in the ocean compared to the entire planet's population. If the players wanted to affect the situation of a novice planet, they would need to grow for a long period of time. The closed beta only lasted for 12 days, so they could not do much. A small, inconspicuous cyclone on the ocean would accumulate to become a storm that would sweep across the entire world. The closed beta players were all poor and did not have much money on them. However, in the long run, the players were the biggest consumer group. Han Xiao controlled the EXP from the beginner's quest. He gave more EXP than the beginner's quest, but it was limited. He wanted to help Mad Blade grow slightly. This was his plan. Mad Blade would rely on his missions and the equipment he bought from him to perform well before everyone else grew up. Even if Mad Blade wanted to keep a low profile, the club he belonged to would not allow it. They would definitely publicize it and attract other players to be curious about Mad Blade's opportunity. This would increase his potential customer base, and when the time came, he would be drowned in EXP and cash. Mad Blade wanted to monopolize him. Han Xiao was very clear about this, but he did not care. It was human nature. Time passed quickly. Countdown to open beta. 126 days, 11 hours, 32 minutes. Other than creating high-explosive ammunition to gain EXP, Han Xiao used his free time to browse the players' forums. The players' forums were the authoritative platform for players to communicate with each other. Usually, they would set up stalls and wait for revival to pass the time. Now, only the closed beta players were posting. The women in Blue Star Raylan are so beautiful, urgently requesting players to form a team to challenge the Yellow Sand Bandits. Location: Longsong Star, Fallen Dragon Valley. Coordinates: captured the scenery of Brighton Star Magic Floating City. Randomly turned into a tentacle monster. Asking how to change race. Waiting online. F***CK. I want to change with you. I want to be a tentacle monster. Most of the posts were to ask for help and share information. Some guilds also showed their progress to increase their reputation. There were more than a dozen beginners' planets, including Magic Civilization, Ancient Civilization, Sci-Fi Civilization, Martial Arts Civilization, Religious Civilization, and so on. There were many races and different social forms. The most popular one was Winterfrost Star, the territory of the Void Demons. It was one of the strongholds of the Extinguished Army. Most of the players there were not humans. Although their philosophy of extinguishing the fire of civilization could be justified, every time he saw the name of the Extinguished Army, Han Xiao still felt a slight pain in his balls. Suddenly, a new post appeared and was instantly pinned to the top, attracting his attention. The first B-level quest. Han Xiao was surprised. He remembered that the first B-level quest appeared after the open beta. How could anyone come in contact with a quest of this level during the closed beta? Han Xiao clicked on it out of curiosity and saw a bunch of players crazily discussing below. You must be kidding. I haven't even seen a D-level quest before. You're an idiot. The post has pictures and the truth. It must be photoshopped. Otherwise, why would they only show the name of the quest and not the content? Are you kidding? Are they going to let you accept the quest? It must be very difficult. We haven't even passed the novice stage. How can we complete it? The poster is from the Guild of Gods. They are elites. Maybe they have a way. Can anyone tell us which planet this is? I'll laugh and rub your heads. Sorry, my Wong Kai has run out. The first post is talking about teenage craziness. The second post is hard. The third post is itchy. The fourth post is erect. The fifth post is undressing. In order to report to the sixth post, perky ass, shoot the seventh post. The eighth post is hot in the chest. The ninth post is strong in the kidneys. The 10th post, don't hesitate. Straight in with the penis. Flipping the 11th post. The 12th post is like a spear. Looking down, the 13th lady appears. 6666666. Unexpected literary genius. I've been unexpected. Idiots, this is an old joke from decades ago. Han Xiao smiled knowingly as he reminisced about the past. He carefully read through the dozens of pages of replies one by one before moving on to the content. The post only had a screenshot of the quest name, and that screenshot made Han Xiao squint. B-level quest, Investigate 0. Han Xiao immediately thought of the German organization. He looked at the poster again. It was an official ID, the Guild of Gods. The Guild of the Temple of Gods? The Temple of Gods was a giant in the professional circle. They had produced countless gods and had their own industry chain. Han Xiao had a grudge with them before. He had taken a revenge mission and killed the guild leader of the Guild of Gods several times. He had taken screenshots of his corpse in various embarrassing poses and posted them on the forums. The title was in the style of the WC Shock department. Shocking. Why did the guild leader of the Guild of Gods? Women cry when they see it. Men fall silent when they see it. After making a quick buck, he was hunted down by the entire Guild of Gods for a month. I miss the feeling of killing players. Han Xiao sighed and turned to look at Madblade. Madblade froze. He could feel the malice in Han Xiao's eyes. He was so scared that he did not dare to move. He stood rooted to the ground like a wooden puppet, sweating profusely. Han Xiao shook his head and thought to himself. In his previous life, the Guild of Gods had joined the Germinal organization and was one of the largest player guilds there. It seemed that the situation had not changed. Even a group of closed beta players could receive the mission to investigate him. It seemed that the Germinal organization was determined to kill him. Han Zhao's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. To the current players, it was extremely difficult to avoid the eyes and ears of Division 13 and find Han Xiao, who could beat them up. No wonder it was classified as a B-grade mission. Only by relying on the advantage of numbers would they have a chance. However, the Guild of Gods did not seem to lack people. Suddenly, Han Xiao knew which Germinal organization base he should choose for his next target. The Guild of Gods had 15 closed beta players, which fully demonstrated what it meant to be a privileged class. The president and vice president personally led some of the core experts into the closed beta. After some discussion, they expressed their preference for technology on the system's questionnaire. Their thinking was simple. Since the setting of Galaxy was the stars of the universe, technology had to be the main theme. Due to this choice, the Guild of Gods was assigned to the Blue Star and quickly collected the money to buy the map. After careful consideration, the president, Jupiter, chose the Germinal organization as the initial faction. Coincidentally, there was a Germinal organization base near Crow Forest Town where they were born. Jupiter felt that the Germinal organization should be the strongest faction. It was an enemy of all the countries on the planet and could still exist peacefully. As for the NPC faction's ideology, it had nothing to do with them. Only a person with terminal internet addiction would care about the life and death of a group of NPCs. They all needed to be treated by Yang Technologies. The reality did not disappoint the Guild of Gods. After joining the Germinal organization, they were brought to a new scene called the Dark Crow Valley Base. They officially became low-level members of the Germinal organization and received a large number of training missions. The biggest surprise was the B-grade mission, Investigate Zero. Even the Guild of Gods did not expect to receive such a huge reward. The reward was very tempting. The mission notification was very simple. It only stated that the mission target, Zero, was in the territory of Star Dragon. At this time, the Guild of Gods was in a meeting to discuss how to complete the mission. Jupiter said in a deep voice, "This is the first B-grade mission. It does not seem to require combat. With our current level, it is possible to complete it. The reward is very generous, and it will allow us to be ahead of all the other players. Whether we can suppress the other guilds in the future will depend on whether we can seize this opportunity. We only know that Zero is in Star Dragon. The range is so large that it is like looking for a needle in a haystack. The probability of finding an NPC is too low. Furthermore, there is not much time left in the closed beta. So to complete this mission, we can only place our hopes on the open beta. Before that, we should do a preliminary investigation," said the core member, Poseidon. Everyone nodded. There were different opinions, and ideas were suggested one after another. Jupiter liked to dig for hidden information. He pondered and said, "The mission notification vaguely states that the Germinal organization and Zero are enemies. If we capture or even kill Zero, will there be additional rewards? That makes sense. As expected of Old Pig. Then it will probably be an A-grade mission." Poseidon was not optimistic. There is no mission that is impossible. We just haven't found a shortcut yet. Jupiter knocked on the conference table. The open beta will be a week after the closed beta. During this time, the other elders will have to discuss a way to continue this mission in the open beta. This will be a breakthrough. Shiva said proudly, "When the open beta comes, we will have the support of the guild's resources. If even we cannot complete this mission, no one can." "That's right." Jupiter nodded. Poseidon suggested, Using the strength of other players is much faster than us finding it ourselves. Jupiter's eyes lit up. That makes sense. Post a post about Zero's appearance and offer a reward. As long as there is a valuable clue, we will give him the money. The Temple of Gods was a rich and powerful club. P.S. Thank you for your generous reward 1608221522011168. Chapter 60. The Celestials are really rich. If only I could find Zero. Mad Blade saw the Celestials' post and glanced at the reward amount with a regretful expression. However, Mad Blade was not envious of the big guild's opportunities at all. He looked at Han Xiao, his eyes full of passion. As long as I hold on to this thigh, I will definitely level faster than anyone else. In the beginning, although his body obeyed Han Xiao's missions, his mind was very repulsed. However, he gradually found that such missions were very interesting. As long as he threw away his morals, it was much easier than killing monsters and running rings. It was simple and fun, and he gradually became addicted to it. Mad Blade felt that his thoughts were sublimated, and he faintly understood. Shame was a genetic constraint that hindered human development. Pervert? No, no, no. That was a great pioneer that ordinary people could not understand. A martyr that transcended the secular world. Lu Qian had a strange expression. She pointed at Mad Blade, who was sitting at the door and staring at Han Xiao, and said, "Is he chasing you?" Han Xiao was speechless. "I think he's very sincere. Why don't you just follow him?" Lu Qian laughed mischievously. She finally got rid of the awkwardness from the previous misunderstanding and started to talk and laugh with Han Xiao again. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and reached out to tickle Lu Qian's itchy flesh. Lu Qian hurriedly dodged and screamed. She crossed her arms and held her waist, nervously staring at Han Xiao, ready to escape at any time. Because her grandfather had the intention of matchmaking her and Han Xiao, Lu Qian was nervous for a long time. However, she gradually realized that Han Xiao's intimate actions were not because he had feelings for her, but because he did not treat her as a woman at all, or rather, he did not treat women differently. This made Lu Qian sigh in relief, but she could not help but doubt her own charm. A woman's heart is like the bottom of the ocean. If you please her, she will be wary of you. If you don't care, she will be unhappy. Of course, this situation is based on appearance. If you are handsome enough, please her, you can get out of the group. If you don't care, you can still get out of the group. So, it's not that I'm pessimistic, but most people are destined to eat dog food or be burned to death when they are born. Lu Qian was wearing skimpy clothes, and the white flesh on her chest was squeezed into a dangerous arc. However, Han Zhao's heart did not waver. He was completely immune. Beauties and whatnot, he was already indifferent to them. Recently, he had been working 15 hours a day, and there seemed to be a trend towards asexuality. Last night, he even dreamt that he had transformed his little go-go into a machine gun. After he woke up and seriously considered the feasibility, he actually felt that it was very practical. He was so scared that he hurriedly recalled Mimi, 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 Barry, and more than a dozen of his ex-girlfriends. Only then did he reset the correct values of a male creature. Humans can die, but birds can't. Glancing at Mad Blade's furious sword, Han Xiao silently calculated the time. There was only one day left in the closed beta, and this guy was finally going to leave. He only tested the NPC function on Mad Blade. He didn't interact with the other professional players who came to the Western capital. There was no need for him to do so. Suddenly, a notification appeared on the interface. You have triggered the emergency mission assassination. Mission tip. The assassin is about to arrive at the battlefield. Mission requirement. Survive. Mission reward. Unknown Han Zhao's face suddenly turned solemn. Emergency mission. An attack could happen at any time. Damn, old man Lu isn't home at this time. Feng Jun and the others were constantly monitoring the surroundings. Since he could still trigger the mission, it meant that the enemy must have used extraordinary means to approach him. It was very likely that they were supers. Han Xiao did not have time to explain. He rushed back to his room, took all his weapons, and strode out of the repair shop. For the sake of Old Man Lu's hidden storyline, he did not want to implicate Lu Qian. Mad Blade's furious sword hurriedly followed. Han Xiao glanced at him and did not say a word. He quickly moved, faintly alert, as if someone was watching him in the dark. If the enemy was hiding in the dark, they would be a ticking time bomb. It was better to take the initiative and let them explode. The temperature suddenly dropped. Mad Blade's furious sword touched his arm and suddenly felt a little scared. An invisible, murderous intent gathered. Han Xiao took the initiative to crawl into the dark alley. After walking for a while, his alertness suddenly rose to the highest. His vision suddenly turned dark, as if he had fallen into a misty, dark abyss. He lost all sound and had no reference at all. It was as if he was in a mother's womb. It was so quiet that he just wanted to fall asleep. Illusion. Han Xiao suddenly opened his eyes wide, and his energy rushed to his brain. You have fallen into an illusion. Evaluating, your INT is higher than 50. You are immune to this illusion. The darkness suddenly broke, and the illusion disappeared. The moment his senses recovered, Han Xiao found that an unfamiliar male killer had appeared 5 meters away from him. He raised a gun and aimed it at his forehead with a cold smile on his face. Kata! The killer pulled the trigger. Han Xiao's expression changed. How could he dodge the bullet at such a close distance? People often said that at the moment of fatal danger, time would be stretched infinitely. Han Xiao felt that the flow of time seemed to have slowed down. The next moment, Han Xiao suppressed all negative emotions with extreme rationality, and his eyes immediately became as cold as ice. I'm not dead yet. The flow of time returned to normal. The moment the bullet left the chamber, Han Xiao activated slide shot, and his whole body moved horizontally for a short distance, as if he had teleported. The effect of slide shot was to move a maximum of 3 meters in an instant. Once the distance was reduced, the time required would also be reduced proportionally. Han Xiao had set the distance to be only 5 centimeters, and he dodged almost instantly, avoiding a fatal blow. The bullet grazed the side of Han Xiao's face, plowing out a scorched wound. The burning pain stimulated his nerves. A sure-kill bullet had been dodged by a hair's breadth. The killer's expression changed. As the German organization's top assassin, Norsa had used his illusion ability to assassinate hundreds of targets. Even if the targets were also mutants, he had never failed. According to the organization's intelligence, Zero's strength was at most at the level of an elite agent, and he only relied on machinery to fight. How could he escape from his illusion so quickly? The intelligence was wrong. As Han Xiao dodged with lightning speed, he pulled out the 2 Berserk Eagles from his waist and activated Overload. The large caliber bullets roared out, and the recoil caused his wrist to tremble slightly. Bang! 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 The bullets hit Norsa, who could not dodge in time, and all of them went into Norsa's chest. Han Xiao's use of slide shot was miraculous. It looked simple, but it was in fact a perfect explosion of his rich combat experience. Norsa's body trembled. If not for his energy protecting his body, he would have been shot through the heart. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his energy exploded as he tried to escape. One wrong move, and he would lose every step. He believed in the assassin's creed of running away immediately if his attack failed. Han Xiao's face was cold. He gathered energy in his legs and caught up to Norsa. He quickly switched to a high-explosive clip, aimed at Norsa's front, and fired. A sea of fire rose up and blocked his path. Norsa quickly stopped, gritted his teeth, and turned to look at the approaching Han Xiao. His eyes lit up with swirling, colorful fog. Detecting illusion intrusion. Assessing. Your INT is higher than 50. Assessment successful. You are immune to this illusion. Bang! Han Xiao's movement paused. Without saying a word, he accurately shot Norsa's neck, creating a bloody hole. Norsa's eyes widened in horror. He covered his neck, but he could not stop the blood from splashing out. He wanted to say something, but his windpipe had been cut off. He could only make gurgling sounds. Why was the tried and tested illusion arcana unable to affect Zero? Han Shao closed in with large strides, and his two guns were like spears. He knocked Nosa over and pressed him to the ground with both guns pointed at his chest before pulling the trigger. Boom! The gunshot was dull. You have killed Germinal Organization Executive Officer Norsa Kino, LV-25 Esper. You have received 7,500 EXP. You have completed the emergency mission, Assassination. You have received a character summon card. Han Shao panted slightly. Blood wet his mask and flowed down his cheeks to his chin. Drops of blood fell to the ground, forming red plum blossoms. The surroundings finally quieted down, leaving only the crackling flames. With Norse's death, Madblade's wrath sword broke free from the illusion. Only a moment had passed in his perception. When he saw the battle in front of him, he was shocked. Chapter 61. Feng Jun rushed over with a group of fully armed field agents. As soon as he saw Han Shao, he hurriedly patted him up and down to see if there were any wounds. Are you hurt? Han Shao pointed at the scratches on his face and said, Are you blind? That's good. Feng Jun heaved a sigh of relief. He felt his face burn as the person he had been protecting for 24 hours was injured. It's not your fault. Han Shao did not blame him. He pointed at Norse's body and said, This guy is the executive officer of the Germinal Organization. He's a super assassin who has never failed. Norsa Kono? Feng Jun recognized him immediately. There was once a high-ranking official in Star Dragon who had died under Norsa's gun in front of everyone. Norsa had always been the Germinal Organization's right-hand man and had never failed. He was like a deadly viper that the Six Nations were very wary of. Feng Jun suddenly realized what was going on, and he stared at Han Shao in disbelief. Wait a minute, you were ambushed by Norsa, and you even killed him. You're that strong? Is this your first day knowing me? Han Shao said in annoyance. He looked at the interface, and the reward information appeared. Character Summon Card. Release the ability of this character once. Character, Norsa Kono ability. Illusion, target with INT above 50 will be immune to this ability. Usage, 0 of 1 character summon card was a rare consumable item that could only be obtained from special missions. It could only be used to limit the abilities of the NPC character. In the past, there was a special workshop that provided these cards to tycoons who liked to throw money at others. Although Han Shao did not rely on these things in battle, who would not like to have an extra trump card? Han Shao was glad that he had added his free attribute points to intelligence early on and was immune to Norse's ability. If he had only remembered to add his free attribute points after being hit, he would have been in trouble. Germinal Organization, I'll accept this gift. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. Since they were enemies, no matter how the enemy dealt with him, it was normal. He would not complain or be angry. What he had to do was to curb violence with violence. Do you wish to receive the reward? No. This kind of illusory consumable item could be stored in the interface and could be retrieved when needed. Madblade's angry sword was ignored. He sized up the group of agents in black in shock and kept throwing out detectors. When he saw that they were field agents from Star Dragon's Homeland Strategic Defense Department, he felt that Han Shao was even more unfathomable. Feng Jun pointed at Madblade's furious sword and asked, Are you familiar with this person? Ignore him. Han Shao took the handkerchief from Feng Jun and wiped the wound on his cheek. He frowned and said, Norsa found my location, which means the Germinal Organization knows as well. That's not necessarily the case. The hackers of the Intelligence Department have blocked the network and conducted a program of screening and manual identification. Any news that mentions you are not allowed to leave the Western capital. Han Zhao's expression turned serious. Are you sure? Feng Jun nodded and said hesitantly, Norsa wouldn't act on his own accord. He must have given the information to the spies in the Western capital. Sooner or later, the information will be leaked out. Han Shao heard this and turned to leave without another word. Hey, where are you going? I still have to take you to the headquarters to report. Feng Jun hurriedly shouted. There's no time to explain. Go and ask the higher-ups to block the entire city. However, Norsa had never failed before. He would not be too cautious and would probably act as soon as he found him. Norsa's information came from the Germinal organization's spies in the western capital. Since the network was blocked, the spies could only leave the city. Han Xiao knew the identity of the Germinal organization's contact person in the western capital. He had not dealt with the contact person because there was no need to. If he killed one, the Germinal organization would send another one. It was more effective to leave a familiar nail and remove it at a critical moment. If he killed Norsa, the Germinal organization would be able to confirm that Han Xiao was in the western capital. However, if he could intercept the information, it would be able to delay the Germinal organization's confirmation of his exact location. Although this was only his guess, and the information might have already left the city, even if there was only a slight possibility, it was worth a try. This had always been his principle. Leah Lin, immediately inform the others to find me in District 8. These are my coordinates. Remember to drive over. Leah Lin was confused. Are you going to treat us? It's too insincere to go to the slums. Don't ask so many questions. Just go. Han Xiao hung up the phone and elbowed the window of a car on the side of the road. He then jumped into the car. It was a race against time. It was time to stop bothering with trifles. The owner of the car was talking on the phone beside the car. He was shocked by the sound of the window shattering. He quickly ran over and grabbed Han Xiao's collar. Get out here. Han Xiao's eyes lit up. He pulled the driver's upper body into the car and pressed the driver's head against the steering wheel, making an ear-piercing honk sound. Great, I don't have to pull the cord to start the car. Han Xiao pressed down on the struggling owner and found the keys. He successfully started the car, pushed the owner away, and stepped on the gas pedal to the floor. The owner of the car sat on the ground. His face was printed with the lines of the steering wheel. He looked confused. What the F*** CK? Are car thieves so crazy nowadays? He drove the car recklessly in the city. Everywhere he passed, the cars would quickly avoid him. Soon, he had passed several blocks. At this time, the siren sounded. A traffic police motorcycle followed him. The traffic police shouted, "The car in front, pull over immediately for inspection." Han Xiao took out the owner's license and threw it out. Take it and deduct points. Deduct as much as you want. Ignoring the traffic police, Han Xiao arrived at District 8, got out of the car, and ran toward the destination. The traffic police followed him on their motorcycles and blocked his path. Stop right there, Han Xiao shouted. Han Xiao was furious. Why did everyone want to talk to you when you were in a hurry? He chopped with his hand. The traffic police did not expect to be attacked. He rolled his eyes and fainted. Han Xiao took big strides and turned through the complicated alleys. He knocked down 3 groups of robbers and came to an abandoned church. This was the residence of the poor. Many homeless people slept on the floor and spent the night with fleas, mud, and sweat. Aquamarine also had the existence of religion. During the old era, during the war period, many displaced people were searching for spiritual sustenance. This religion took advantage of the opportunity and added the most popular idea during the war period, a hope for world peace, to their teachings. Thus, the number of followers reached tens of millions. Then, the holy land of this religion was really destroyed. The true God they believed in, God of heaven, did not come out to save them. Therefore, this religion gradually died out. Rushing into the church, the homeless people looked at him with sleepy eyes. Han Xiao looked around and did not find his target. He narrowed his eyes and grabbed a homeless man beside him. Let me ask you, where did the man who lived here for a long time go? He has a red wolf tattoo on the back of his hand, and he's about 8 meters tall. He's about 40 years old. Where'd he go? Seeing Han Xiao covered in blood, the homeless man trembled and said carefully, Are you talking about Lu Gaoan? We call him tongueless. He almost never speaks. He disappeared this afternoon. Ordinary citizens had to go through a series of checkpoints to leave the West Capital. It was now 2 in the afternoon, so there might be a chance to stop him. There were 3 checkpoints in the West Capital. Which one would Lu Gaoan go to? Han Xiao frowned. He did not expect Division 13 to seal off the West Capital in time. Regardless of whether the higher-ups agreed to it or not, even if they did, who knew how long it would take. Lu Gaoan might have escaped long ago. P.S. Thank you, Shi Yin, for the reward. Chapter 62. Han Xiao slowly outlined the process of Nosa and Lu Gaoan's meeting. First of all, Lu Gaoan had only left an hour ago, which meant that he had only just received the information. The two of them split up. Nosa came to assassinate him, and Lu Gaoan chose to upload the information. Then he found that all information about Zero was blocked, so he decided to leave the city. Lu Gaoan did not know that Han Xiao knew his identity, so he was not in a hurry to leave the city. Under such circumstances, he would choose the most natural direction to leave the city. The Northwest Sentry Post was the closest to the slums, so it was most likely. However, if Lu Gaoan deliberately went the opposite way and chose the other two sentry posts that were further away, it was not impossible. There were not enough clues. Hey, Han Xiao, we're here. Why are you looking for us? Liu Lin, Zhang Wei, and Lambert walked over. There was a yellow convertible sports car parked outside. This was Liu Lin's car. It was very fast, which was why they could arrive in time. Han Xiao had already put on a mask when he killed Nosa. An emergency mission. The contact of the Germinal organization has received important information and might have escaped from the 3 sentry posts. He might not have left the city yet. Liu Lin immediately stopped smiling and said seriously, "Do you have what he looks like?" Han Xiao's eyes lit up. He found 3 pieces of scrap paper on the ground and drew out Lu Gaoan's features based on his memory. It was features, not looks, because he could not remember. He pulled the poor homeless man in front of him and yelled, "Look, doesn't he look like Lu Gaoan?" The homeless man trembled and said, "His eyes are deeper, his nose is a little crooked, and his hair is short." According to the homeless man's words, the portrait was quickly changed. This time, it should be 70% to 80% similar. Han Xiao marked the key features and distributed them to the 3 members of the team. We'll split up and look for the officers at the sentry post to find this person. Liu Lin and I will go together. We'll take her sports car to the furthest sentry post. You two can choose one. Zhang Wei's face twitched. You're giving orders too naturally. Do you still have me in your eyes? Even though Zhang Wei was cursing in his heart, he still looked at the bigger picture. He took the portrait and split up with Lambert, not bothering with small details as they tried to snatch the car in front of everyone. Han Xiao jumped into the driver's seat of the yellow sports car. Liu Lin said unhappily, "Hey, this is my car, let me drive." "You're driving too slow. How dare you doubt the driving skills of an agent?" Liu Lin was so angry that her eyebrows were raised, but she didn't want to waste any more time, so she had to hold it in. She sat in the passenger seat sullenly. "Fasten your seatbelt," Han Xiao reminded. Liu Lin glanced at Han Xiao and said with disdain, "Are you kidding me? I'm a martial artist. I'll be fine no matter how fast you drive. Just don't regret it." Han Xiao nodded, put the car in gear, and stepped on the accelerator. Half an hour later, the yellow sports car swung its tail fiercely, and the overheated tires left 4 black tracks on the ground. It steadily stopped at the entrance of the southernmost sentry post. "Blurg. Hey, aren't you a martial artist?" Don't talk to me, Blurg." Liu Lin's face turned green as she held onto the car door and vomited. Crossing the city in half an hour, causing 27 car accidents, or 28. Her head was spinning, and she couldn't count it all. Who taught you how to drive?" Han Xiao was astonished. "Do you need someone to teach you how to drive?" Don't you? The first person to learn how to drive wasn't taught by someone else. That makes sense. I'm actually speechless." Liu Lin was dumbfounded. She wanted to say something, but the nausea surged up again. She turned around and vomited. She even vomited bile. "Is there a need to? I just drove a little faster." "A little faster?" There's only one word that can describe your driving skills. Brake failure. Liu Lin was like an angry little lion, baring its fangs and claws. Unfortunately, her pale face and pale lips made her look less threatening. "Stop fooling around. Hurry up." Liu Lin felt like she was floating and almost fell into the vomit. Han Xiao hurriedly held onto her and shook his head helplessly. He dragged Liu Lin forward like a dead pig. When they arrived at the sentry post, the soldier on guard shouted, "Stop! Show me your ID." Han Xiao dug into his pocket and was stunned. He had forgotten to bring his Division 13 ID. He turned to look at Leah Lin and reached in her pocket. "Top? No. Pants? No. Where's your ID?" Han Xiao asked. Leah Lin was in a daze as she allowed Han Xiao to touch her sexy body. I'm being taken advantage of?" "Ha, found it." Han Xiao was overjoyed. He pulled out an ID from Leah Lin's hip pocket and showed it to the soldier on guard. "Oh, you're a special agent. Please come in." Han Xiao walked in a few steps and realized that Leah Lin was still standing there. She was biting her lips and staring at him. Han Xiao was surprised. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and come in." Leah Lin took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. She said stiffly, "Give me back my ID. Why are you so troublesome?" Han Xiao was impatient. He turned around and put the ID back into Leah Lin's hip pocket. Leah Lin's eyes widened. "I'm being taken advantage of again." Han Xiao walked into the sentry post and found the officer in charge of surveillance. He showed Lu Gao's portrait. "Please wait a moment. The program is screening the portrait." Leah Lin bit her lip and followed in. She felt that Han Xiao was touching her like a piece of pork. It made her feel very strange. She could not even feel angry. She just stared at Han Xiao angrily. Lu Gaoan followed the crowd in a low profile. The exit of the sentry post was right in front of them. Lu Gaoan belonged to an intelligence organization called the Wind Eye. He was an informant in the Western capital. The Wind Eye organization was a subsidiary of the Germinal organization. There were many organizations like this that did not have to use the Germinal organization's name. The structure of the Wind Eye organization was that there was only one person in charge of each city's intelligence network, who was called the contact person. The contact person would come in contact with the organization every once in a while. The contact person's subordinates were in charge of collecting intelligence and could only communicate with the contact person in writing. Lu Gaoan had also heard from his informant that a person who looked similar to Zero had appeared in District 7, but he did not know the exact location. After looking around, he realized that there was an area that seemed to be secretly guarded and outsiders were not allowed to enter. Thus, he concluded that this area was Han Zhao's hiding place and was under the protection of Division 13. The area was near the repair shop, and Feng Jun was secretly guarding it. When Lu Gaoan realized that no information about Zero could be transmitted through the network, he realized that hackers had blocked the city's network. To be safe, he immediately disconnected the network and destroyed his computer to prevent hackers from locating him. He immediately went to the sentry post and prepared to leave the city. With Norse's ability, he should have gotten it by now. At that moment, the iron wire gate in front of them slammed shut. The people waiting to leave the city were all blocked inside the sentry post. "What's wrong? Why can't we leave the city?" The soldier shouted, "Orders from above. The city is temporarily sealed." Everyone started to complain, but Lu Gaoan felt that something was wrong. "Why is the city being sealed? Did Norsa fail?" Lu Gaoan was shocked. This was important information that must be passed to the organization to increase Zero's threat level. The soldier checked everyone's identities. Lu Gaoan was very confident in his ability to hide. He had been in the West Capital for 2 to 3 years and had never exposed himself. It was impossible to find him. "It's him!" A loud shout rang out. Lu Gaoan turned around and saw a group of soldiers aggressively walking towards him. Their target was him. Impossible! Lu Gaoan was shocked. He wanted to retreat, but there were people all around him. Looking at the military facilities and soldiers everywhere, he felt a sense of despair. He was directly pressed to the ground by the soldiers and did not resist. "We made it." Han Xiao walked over and heaved a sigh of relief. "You really caught up to me." Leah Lin was surprised. Lu Gaoan looked up and said, "How did you know it was me?" Han Xiao was calm. This person was the contact of the Germinal organization players in the West Capital. He had a deep impression of him. Lu Gaoan could not understand. He was about to bite the poison sac in his back teeth. He was loyal to the Germinal organization. In order not to leak the information, he chose to end his life. Han Xiao suddenly pulled out his pistol and shot Lu Gaoan in the head. The bullet pierced through the back of his head and blood and brain matter spurted out. You have killed Lu Gao in Cyborn, LV-12. You have received 3,500 EXP. Han Shao blew on the gun. Even if you want to die, you should give me some EXP. Why did you kill him? Leah Lin was surprised. In her opinion, he could have handed him over to the bureau for interrogation. He had poison sacs in his teeth, poison in his nails, and poison needles in his underwear. If he wanted to die, no one could stop him. Han Shao shook his head. It was not important to him whether Lu Gaoan was dead or alive. He knew what he needed to know. Looks like the plan needs to be carried out quickly. Han Zhao's eyes darkened. Chapter 63. In the base of the Dark Crow Valley, the members of the Guild of Gods gathered. Jupiter rubbed his brows in frustration. The beta testers were all busy leveling up and experiencing the game. No one was paying attention to their bounty. President, the mission notification has changed. The members exclaimed. Jupiter was stunned. He quickly checked and found that the location of the mission notification had changed. It meant that Zero was in the Western capital. The mission is suddenly updated. Jupiter was astonished and puzzled. However, the scope was reduced from a country to a city, which was more advantageous for them. Today was the last day of the 12 days of beta testing. Since the location is confirmed, send the guild members to the Western capital after the open beta. We have to find the target no matter what. As long as the open beta started, the guild would definitely complete the mission with their advantage in numbers. Let's wait for the open beta. Jupiter looked confident. This B-level mission was already in his bag, and he could reach out and get it. This time, they would definitely be able to suppress those old rivals of theirs. The members were all excited. The leader put his hands behind his back and listened to his assistant's report. Executive Officer Norsa went missing in the Western capital. Lu Gaoan and Cyborn disappeared together with him. The person in charge of the wind, Ji Nua, said that a new contact will be sent to replace Lu Gaoan as soon as possible. It's Zero, the leader suddenly said. He killed Norsa and Lu Gaoan. In order to not expose his exact location, he hid in the Western capital. Stardragon's Division 13 must be protecting him. Norsa was the organization's top assassin. It was a huge loss for them to lose to Zero. The leader also had an impression of Lu Gaoan. He seemed to be a talent who was very good at managing intelligence. Zero again. The leader was furious. Zero, do you think that I can't do anything to you just because you found a backer? He did not care about a little rat who had defected from the organization. However, after this period of events, the leader realized that Zero was a threat to the organization. According to the surveillance in the laboratory, Zero had not done anything out of line in the past 6 months. Where did his intelligence come from? This was a mystery. The leader did not know how many secrets Zero had, so he could only prepare for the worst. It was time to deal with this hidden danger with thunderous means. Tell the wind I had to find out Han Zhao's exact location. Even if he is hiding in the headquarters of Division 13, find him no matter the cost. 200 night owls and 5 executive officers are on standby. Once you find his exact location, kill him. I allow you to use short-range missiles. The leader gave a series of orders, his tone full of killing intent. If you dare to show your face, I will kill you. It's time for the closed beta. Mad Blade looked at the 30-second countdown on his interface and felt a little regretful. He hoped that the time would be extended so that he could train a little more. Of course, he was already very satisfied with the current progress. Although Han Zhao's mission was heavy, the EXP was really high. Furthermore, he had also bought a lot of Han Zhao's equipment, forcefully increasing his combat strength. Although most of the mechanic class skills were related to manufacturing, which did not suit Mad Blade's taste, Mad Blade regained his confidence when he thought of Han Zhao's strength. As long as he leveled up, he would definitely be able to become as strong. There will definitely be a place for me in the pro scene. As the closed beta ended, the excited Mad Blade disappeared from the spot. Closed beta ended. Open beta countdown. 122 days, 1 hour, 23 minutes. Han Shao raised his eyebrows and looked at the forum entrance. It was indeed grayed out, and he could not enter. I guessed right. The version update will not happen at the same time as here. Han Xiao shook his head. Why are you shaking your head? How much more information are you hiding? Gu Hui said in a low voice. At this time, Han Xiao was in the conference room of the headquarters. Director Gu Hui, the head of the intelligence department, and the head of the secret operations department sat opposite each other. Division 13 knew that Han Xiao had a certain level of combat strength, but they did not expect him to be able to kill a real Esper, and a famous one at that. Of course, this was not the main problem. Division 13 was more concerned about Han Xiao's ability to easily find Lu Gaoan, the informant of the German organization. Lu Gaoan had been hiding in the western capital for more than 2 years without giving himself away. Division 13 had failed many times to track him down, but Han Xiao had so easily found the target. This proved that Han Xiao had far more information than they thought. That was why today's meeting was held. Gu Hui wanted to know more. Han Xiao came back to his senses. He rubbed his chin and avoided the question. I exposed my location. Although the German organization does not know where I live, they're certain that I am in the western capital. In the future, they will definitely send more assassins to infiltrate. Gu Hui frowned. He was not happy with Han Xiao's avoidance, but he followed his words and asked, Then what do you plan to do? No more hiding. I want to openly go against the German organization. I want to participate in the next operation personally. Gu Hui frowned. This is too dangerous. If you reveal yourself, the German organization will have many opportunities to make their move. Han Xiao coughed. Can we talk in private? Gu Hui hesitated for a moment, then stood up and walked to the side with Han Xiao. The head of the intelligence department and the head of the secret operations department looked at each other helplessly. Did he have to distrust them so much? Han Xiao looked around and whispered, I can change my appearance. Gu Hui was shocked. You have a superpower? Han Xiao shook his head. I can create a small gadget. It can change my appearance, so I will not reveal my real face. The German organization will not be able to find me no matter what. A human skin mask? This was not a bad idea. Division 13 knew how to create it, but from Han Xiao's tone, it seemed that he was going to create something more advanced than human skin mask. Gu Hui sighed. Even if it is a human skin mask, you'll have to take it off eventually. It is still too dangerous. Han Xiao's eyes flashed. The mask I made will be very convenient to wear. Okay, when you make it, I promise to participate in the operation personally. Han Xiao insisted on participating in the operation personally for 2 reasons. Firstly, he wanted to gain more experience. The open beta was coming, and the pressure was pressing. Secondly, he did not want to stay in the western capital. Only by going out would he have the opportunity to participate in the outside world. After the assassination attempt, Han Xiao already had a target in mind. The Dark Crow Valley base, located at the border of Hesla, was a large base of the German organization. It was much larger than the previous 3 bases. There were armed guards, a large number of vehicles, weapons, and defensive facilities to protect the base. The person in charge of the base was Sword Soul Pan Kuang, a pugilist who was only 1 step away from reaching Grade D. He was very powerful. Near the Dark Crow Valley, there was a large rogue settlement called Crow Forest Town, which was one of the starting points for beginners. The Dark Crow Valley base was one of the bridgeheads for future players to join the German organization. It was also the place where the Guild of Gods received the investigation mission. If the Dark Crow Valley base could be destroyed, it would greatly reduce the number of players joining the German organization in the future. This was an idea that Han Xiao came up with after reading the Guild of Gods post on the forums. After some consideration, he felt that it was very feasible. The German organization's leader would not even realize how big of a loss it would be to cut off one of the German organization's future powerhouses. There was no better target for revenge. Chapter 64. The Border of Hesla. Gu Hui knocked on the table and said in a low voice, We need to contact Hesla's military intelligence department before we can decide whether to send troops. Then I'll wait for your good news. Han Xiao nodded and left the meeting room. Feng Jun was already waiting outside the door. He complained as soon as he saw Han Xiao. You put me in so much trouble this time. Why didn't you inform me when you encountered the assassin? I was scolded by my superiors. Because of you, you won't be able to help, so why should I inform you? Han Xiao was surprised. Feng Jun felt as if he had eaten a pot of cockroaches. He said angrily, "We are close, but if you insult me, I will be angry." Han Xiao smiled. "Maybe I should discuss with the director how my location was exposed." Feng Jun, "Oh, you bastard. Why would I be angry at you? Despicable." Han Xiao rolled his eyes. With Feng Jun sending him off, Han Xiao left the headquarters and returned to the repair shop. Han Xiao had the idea of making a face-changing mask a long time ago. With his understanding of the German organization, he knew that he could not hide his identity forever. Once his location was exposed, he would definitely be punished. The face-changing mask was one of the backup plans he had for himself. Star Dragon would most likely agree to this operation, so he would need to upgrade his combat equipment. The lightweight mechanical arm and retractable knife would not be able to keep up with the enemy's strength. Furthermore, this operation would be outside the country, so Han Xiao felt that he would need a personal vehicle, preferably with the team. Speaking of the team, Zhang Wei's battler armor was in urgent need of improvement. This was a big project. Han Xiao rubbed his eyebrows and quickly found a pile of blueprints that were most suitable for the current situation. Looks like I'll have to learn a lot this time. Han Xiao knocked on Old Man Lu's door. Old Man Lu was in the middle of munching on spicy chicken feet with wine. His hands were dripping with grease as he glanced at Han Xiao. "Brat, what are you doing here? I want to borrow a mechanical knowledge book." Han Xiao turned his head and looked at the bookcase that covered the entire wall. He thought that Old Man Lu would refuse like the last time, but unexpectedly, Old Man Lu agreed immediately. He pouted at the bookcase and said, "The key is in the drawer. Take whatever you want. Remember to return it to me when you're done." Han Xiao was shocked. "You actually agreed? I don't think we're that close." Old Man Lu put down the chicken feet and snorted. "Just take it as my thanks." "Thank him?" Han Xiao frowned and said uncertainly, "Is this another one of your tricks to promote your granddaughter?" Old Man Lu's face stiffened. "What's so bad about my granddaughter? Why don't you like her?" However, Old Man Lu wasn't thanking Han Xiao for this. Old Man Gao had told him that Han Xiao had left the repair shop to deal with the assassination attempt. He hadn't implicated Lu Qian, and that was why Old Man Lu was thanking him. After this incident, Old Man Lu found Han Xiao much more pleasing to the eye. "Kid, you're not bad." Old Man Lu patted Han Xiao's shoulder and walked out with a satisfied smile. He left him in the room to read, showing that he trusted him. Han Xiao looked at the greasy handprint on his shoulder, and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Damn old man." Han Xiao took out the key and opened the bookcase. Rows of basic knowledge books jumped into view. He took out the 7 books he needed and brought them back to his room. He took a deep breath, adjusted his state of mind, and chose to learn all of them. Consume 1 potential point to learn the energy branch, basic energy theory. Energy branch, basic biochemistry. Energy branch, basic optics. Yes, a large amount of knowledge rushed into his mind, and it felt like his brain was about to explode. It took a while for Han Xiao to calm down. He gritted his teeth and continued to pick up the rest of the books. Control branch, basic electromagnetic theory. Control branch, basic mechanical theory. Control branch, basic virtual electronics. Control branch, basic spatial sensing. 7 basic knowledge books. That's not all. Basic energy theory leveled up to LV3. Basic electromagnetic theory leveled up to LV2. Basic virtual electronics leveled up to LV2. Basic mechanical theory leveled up to LV2. Basic mechanical engineering leveled up from LV2 to LV4. Basic weaponry leveled up to LV3. Basic material encyclopedia leveled up to LV3. Basic assembly leveled up to LV2. Advanced material synthesis leveled up to LV2. His potential points were spent faster than water. He originally had 21 potential points, but after this round of crazy learning, he had spent 20 potential points. You have learned the skill, basic programming. You have learned the skill, energy, electromagnetic enhancement. Basic programming came from basic virtual electronics technology. It was the prerequisite skill for creating all kinds of chips and programs. Like simple assembly and simple modification, it was a core ability of a mechanic. Energy, electromagnetic enhancement, was an ability that could be unlocked after a mechanic awakened the magnetic attribute and learned the energy branch. It strengthened the effect of the energy magnetic attribute, increasing the speed of building machines and the power of using machines. It was another passive ability that increased every level by 3%. He had practiced the energy training technique 34 times in total. Compared to the previous 10 times, he had gained 72 more energy points. His energy points had not reached LV5 yet. He had 380,000 EXP on his interface, which was the result of mass production of high-explosive bullets. He would get 20,000 to 30,000 EXP every day, and money was even more out of the question. He had accumulated 3,600,000 aquamarine dollars, which was more than enough for him to move around. First, I need to fuse the disguise blueprint. Han Xiao invested a few thousand EXP and raised basic programming to level 3. Knowledge fusion was not limited to just 2 knowledges. Every time he fused a basic knowledge, the cost would increase by 5,000 EXP. For example, if he fused the same combination again, it would cost him 40,000 EXP. Normally, mechanic class players would only fuse 2 knowledges. The chances of fusing more than 2 knowledges were not high. Han Xiao naturally did not have such concerns. He was very clear about the distribution of these knowledges and could accurately fuse the blueprints he needed. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing artificial intelligence optical mask. Han Xiao exhaled. This was definitely a good thing. The first time it appeared was in version 3.0. At that time, players had only managed to fuse this blueprint by chance. First, the combination of the 4 knowledges was very difficult to rely on luck, and it spanned across 3 branches. Secondly, the 4 knowledges had to be at his current level. Thirdly, the prerequisite of the skills and attributes required was intermediate machinery affinity, 55 intelligence, and LV, 3 basic programming. Lastly, he had to be a mechanic. Chapter 65. Han Xiao wrote down a list of materials and sent it to Feng Jun. Oh my god, you want BOK composite colloid far 4 solvent and 12 sets of microelectronic components. Do you know the price of these things? I have money. Feng Jun was speechless. He just remembered that Han Xiao was different from a civil servant like him. He had made a lot of money from the mechanical orders. He was a typical rich man. An hour later, Feng Jun delivered 3 suitcases to Han Xiao's office. The suitcases had black linings. In the first case, there were 3 transparent tubes that were 10 centimeters long. They were filled with a milky, white, viscous solution. This was BOK composite colloid. In the second case, there was a small bottle that contained a light blue solution, far-4 solvent. These 2 materials were new materials that could only be synthesized in a laboratory. They were very precious. Just a few small bottles cost 120,000 yuan. In the third case, there were 12 sets of microelectronic components. Each of them was only the size of 2 or 3 fingernails. They were very thin and had electronic patterns all over them. They were usually used in precision instruments. The total cost was 60,000 renminbi. After getting the materials, Han Xiao started to build them behind closed doors. First, he used a plastic plate to carve out a human face mold. He opened the eyes, nose, and mouth holes. Then, he used a steel needle to pierce 12 points in the mold, distributed in different positions. Han Xiao turned on the computer and used a special reading device to connect the microelectronic components. He reset and synchronized all the microelectronic components to share the same program. He used the scanner to record his facial features. Then, he collected thousands of facial features and recorded them into the database. After collecting the differences between the facial features, he started a program. This work lasted for 2 to 3 hours. A simple simulation program was created. He took out the BOK colloid and FAR4 solvent. He took out the unopened chemical instruments, test tubes, conduits, and various instruments from the warehouse. After a while, through the complicated chemical process, he mixed the two immiscible materials. Then, through the process mainly for the ionization reaction, a new composite material was formed. It was not milky white or light blue, but flesh-colored. This new material combined the characteristics of BOK colloid and FAR4 solvent, as well as good electrical conductivity. This was the basic material for the artificial optical mask, using the knowledge of basic biochemistry. Han Xiao carefully placed the microelectronic components on the 12 marks of the mold, gently poured the new material solution, and sealed the mold after a few procedures, waiting for the solidification reaction. Counting the time, Han Xiao immediately opened the mold. A thin mask as thin as a cicada's wing was lying quietly in the mold. At this step, the manufacturing process was almost over. Han Xiao finished the last few steps and was soon done. He reached out and pressed on it. The position of the electronic components felt slightly hard, but overall, it felt very smooth. The surface of the mask was covered with a liquid crystal coating. When a finger pressed on it, a colorful halo would appear around the pressure point, just like the changes on a liquid crystal screen. You have created artificial intelligence optical mask. You have gained 5,000 EXP. The cost of this mask was close to 200,000 EXP. Han Xiao picked up the mask and put it on his face. It felt cool and refreshing to the touch. He walked in front of the mirror, reached out his finger, and pressed on the electronic device on his cheek. The facial features in the mirror suddenly changed into the face of an unfamiliar man. Han Xiao pressed a few more times, and the facial features changed again. They were all completely different faces. This was not an ordinary human skin mask, but a mask that could change one's appearance at any time. It was a stealth artifact. The electronic components were entered into the facial simulation program, located at the key parts that determined the facial features of the face. Through the built-in database, the mask was like a screen fitting the facial features, and the facial features were completely three-dimensional. The mask was very realistic. As long as the switch was pressed, the facial features could be randomly simulated. The artificial intelligence optical mask had a total of 4 functions. The first was simulation, which randomly changed the facial features. According to the program set by Han Xiao, the facial features would not jump out of the human category, and there was no need to worry about the appearance of an ancient god. The second function was memory, which could record 3 different facial features and could be replaced. The third function was reset, which could restore 3 different facial features at any time. There was no need to worry about losing the original disguise after the simulation. The fourth function was scan simulation, which could be hidden in the mask to quickly scan the face of a humanoid target and change it into the target's appearance. The similarity could reach 70 to 80%. It was a godly skill. Han Xiao played with it for a while, then took off the artificial intelligence optical mask and went to the headquarters to visit Gu Hui. "You created the artificial appearance mask?" Gu Hui asked. Han Xiao laughed and put on the mask. He had already memorized the face of the first person before he came. It was an ordinary-looking young man, and he did not reveal the mask's ability to change facial features in front of Gu Hui. This function was Han Xiao's trump card. Gu Hui looked at it and thought that Han Xiao was only wearing a human skin mask. Division 13 also knew how to make one, but it was not as realistic as Han Xiao's. Moreover, this mask was very light and seemed to be easier to carry around. "Are you interested in submitting the blueprint to the Bureau?" Han Xiao laughed and said, "It's just a human skin mask. There's no need for a blueprint. Don't you guys know how to make your own?" Gu Hui agreed and did not insist. Han Xiao saw this and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had fooled them. Han Xiao quickly changed the topic. "Can I participate in the operation personally?" Gu Hui thought for a while and nodded. "The higher-ups have communicated with Hesla. Hesla's military intelligence department has decided to cooperate with us. This time, you will follow your team." The Dark Crow Valley base was located at the border of Hesla. Han Xiao guessed that Hesla would not reject him. After confirming that he would participate in the operation, Han Xiao suppressed his excitement and asked, "When will we depart?" "There's no rush. It takes time to mobilize the troops. Moreover, the General Staff Department has to come up with a specific strategy with Hesla. It will take at least half a month before we can depart." Half a month was enough for him to complete all the modifications. After returning to the studio, Han Xiao wrote down the main points of his work for the next half a month on a piece of paper. First, increase the number of blueprints for his trump cards. Second, purchase a vehicle for his team. As a logistics officer, he needed to provide equipment maintenance and supplies for his team. Therefore, he needed a logistics vehicle. Third, upgrade Zhang Wei's battler armor. This is a big project. Let's do it one by one. Han Xiao shook his head. First, he needed stronger combat power. He could consider the following aspects. First, defense. This was the aspect that he valued the most. Being able to survive was the most important thing. Long-range attack. This required more powerful firearms. 2 Berserk Eagles were barely enough. He only needed to upgrade them once. Close combat weapons. Although Han Xiao preferred long-range weapons, he still needed to prevent others from getting close to him. Lightweight mechanical arm needed to be modified. Mobility in harsh terrain. Cloud Swallow Glider had been gathering dust on the interface for a long time. Finally, it was time to put to use. Lastly, attack power. He had to consider situations where he was surrounded or needed to be a troublemaker in a group battle. Therefore, he needed to use powerful means to break through the situation. Art was a good choice. Explosions were art. Han Xiao quickly came up with an idea. He quickly wrote down a list of materials and asked Feng Jun to go to the warehouse to collect them. This batch of materials was worth 300,000 yuan. It was very expensive. Feng Jun was getting more and more helpless with Han Xiao. He felt that he was going to become a babysitter. The orders from the higher-ups were to protect Han Xiao in all aspects. Han Xiao was very difficult to deal with. The higher-ups seemed to be very clear about this and gave him a better treatment as a form of consolation. What else could Feng Jun say? For a monthly salary of 25,000 yuan and 5 insurances and housing funds, he could only do it. Maybe this is what they mean by the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Chapter 66. After the materials and parts were in place, Han Xiao praised Feng Jun as usual, saying things like, "Little comrade Feng Jun is very good at his job, and the party is very proud of him." After receiving more than 10 eye rolls, Han Xiaoxin was satisfied and went into seclusion. He took out the 2 Berserk Eagles and started to modify them. Basic weaponry and basic mechanical engineering both increased by a few levels, and the effect was better than before. He also changed some parts and replaced them with better materials. Now that we're rich, the days of being poor are gone, and we can't go back. Let's just forget about the hard times and think about the sweet times. Han Xiao was very familiar with the modification of basic firearms, and it did not take long for him to complete the modification. Berserk Eagle, enhanced, quality, green basic stats, attack 74 to 87, fire rate 1. 5/S, magazine capacity 8, effective range 50 meters. Accuracy will be lost after exceeding 50 meters. Energy output level 45 prerequisite. LV. 3 precision, shooting bonus stats, +2 to X length, 0, 21 M weight. 4. 2 LB bonus ability, recoil, strong recoil. Accuracy will be lost if STR is lower than 30. Bonus ability. Powerful kinetic energy. Within the range, there is a 10% chance of dealing 15 additional damage. Bonus ability. Dual shot. This firearm has been modified to be able to fire 2 bullets simultaneously. When using this effect, STR will be reduced by 20%. Remark. Do you think I won't recognize you if you change Sha to Berserk? With Han Zhao's current ability, he had a 30% to 40% chance of upgrading normal equipment to green grade. Both guns were green grade, but following that came the equipment requirements. Han Xiao realized that his precision shooting was only at level 1. Although it did not hinder him from using 2 guns, the power of the 2 guns would be greatly reduced, and he would not be able to enjoy the buffs of various skills. Shaking his head helplessly, Han Xiao used his experience to upgrade precision shooting to LV3 and added 3% to shooting correction and 4% to critical hit rate. Basic shooting has exceeded LV8. Precision shooting has reached LV3. Please choose one of the following 3 advanced skills: snipe, close-range gunfighting, or strafing. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows and fell into a dilemma. This was the first time he had hesitated to choose a skill. Shooting was the core skill of a cannon gunner, and it was also very important for a mechanic. These 3 paths clearly indicated different combat styles: sniper, melee gunner, and firepower. The Berserk Eagle was a close-range gun. Logically speaking, choosing close-range gunfighting would be the most cost-effective. However, Han Xiao still had to consider his future potential. In the future, long-range combat would be the strength of a mechanic. On the other hand, the thrilling gunfighting technique was the least useful. Firepower was more suitable for attacking and required teammates to provide support. Sniping was more suitable for solo operations. Han Xiao scratched his head and thought to himself, sooner or later, I'll have to act alone. The farther the distance, the safer I'll be. Players can choose to use gunfighting and strafing, but for me, sniping is the most suitable. In Han Xiao's previous life, gunfighting was very popular. It was elegant and dazzling. A few cannon gunner professional players in the previous seasons would also choose gunfighting to show off their skills. It looked so cool when they fought. However, Han Xiao was not interested in this. He was a pragmatist. Whether it was a black cat or a white cat, as long as it could act cute, it was a good cat. What was the use of looking cool when fighting? He did not need fans to cheer him on. What was the most suitable for him was the best. With that in mind, Han Technician no longer hesitated. He chose sniping and invested in the future. Advanced skill obtained. Sniping LV. 1. Fixed 4% critical point accuracy. Increased 5% range. Done. Han Xiao nodded with satisfaction and moved on to the next task. The Cloud Swallow glider was manufactured, and he received 1,500 EXP. Han Xiao added the folding technology from the retractable knife to it. This was the benefit of being able to truly understand the knowledge. He could apply the principles of other blueprints to other suitable machines. Normally, the Cloud Swallow glider could be carried on his back like a parachute. Once it was activated, the 2-meter-long glider wings would extend and allow him to glide in the air. It was much better than the batsuit. Next, he needed to enhance his close combat ability. The mechanical arm and the mechanical leg were a complete set. They were both blueprints that could be developed from the same knowledge combination. In the future, they could form the most basic exoskeleton power armor. However, Han Xiao did not plan to make the mechanical leg. His current technology was not perfect yet. Even if he made the mechanical leg, it could only be used for long-distance travel. It could not be used for dodging in a small area. However, Han Xiao needed dodging ability the most, so he did not want to waste his EXP. Han Xiao decided to modify the mechanical arm first. The weight and size could be reduced. Reducing the size meant reducing the power. Therefore, Han Xiao planned to use another small device to enhance the power of the mechanical arm. Do you want to proceed with Knowledge Fusion, LV, 3 basic weaponry plus LV, 2 basic assembly plus LV, 2 basic mechanics? This fusion will cost you 15,000 EXP. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing air pressure oscillator. Yo, I succeeded on the first try. Han Xiao was slightly happy. There were many blueprints for this combination, and he had developed the one he needed on the first try. His luck was not bad, and he saved a lot of EXP. The air pressure oscillator's core principle was somewhat similar to an air gun, but it compressed air into vibrational force and released a direct hit to the inside of the object. It could ignore the defense of normal armor, but it was much less effective against anti-seismic objects. Han Xiao spent most of the day modifying the lightweight mechanical arm. He reduced the size of the mechanical arm, increased the length, and installed a platinum alloy outer armor to cover the internal components, greatly increasing the durability. The new mechanical arm looked a lot better overall. Its appearance was a shiny silver metal arm. Han Xiao created the air pressure oscillator and installed it in the palm of the mechanical arm. He tested it a little, and it worked well. Lightweight mechanical arm, left, oscillator modified grade. White basic attributes. Attack 30 to 48, defense 10 to 13, power level 33, durability 470 equipment requirement, 24 STR bonus attribute, -2 ATK SPD length, 0, 87 meters, left palm to shoulder, weight, 11. 4 pounds additional effect, plus 7 STR judgment additional ability. Oscillation, equipped with an air pressure oscillator that can release an oscillation attack on the target through contact, dealing 23 to 45 damage. Ignores armor other than anti-seismic. Automatically collects air to recharge. Can be used once every 15 seconds. Additional ability, impact resistance. External armor is made of platinum alloy, which increases durability and does not wear out easily. Note, it's a normal style modification. Although it was only white grade, because Han Xiao had installed the accessories, there were 3 additional effects. These few equipment modifications were considered normal, but the equipment that Han Xiao was going to create next could be said to be equipment that was truly exclusive to mechanics. Han Xiao took a deep breath and thought to himself, Ba, Lord Taishang has given the order. God bless me, I have to fuse that blueprint in one go. I don't want to do it a second time. It's really a waste of experience. Do you want to proceed with knowledge fusion, LV, 2 advanced material synthesis, plus LV, 2 basic electromagnetic theory, plus LV, 2 basic assembly? This fusion will cost 70,000 EXP. Chapter 67. The experience points required to fuse the higher level of knowledge would soar. Taking the basic knowledge fusion as an example, if he added an advanced knowledge, he would need to spend 50,000 more experience points. The cost of the basic knowledge would also double from 5,000 to 10,000, and so on. If he added advanced knowledge into the advanced knowledge fusion, the cost would also double. Fusion confirmed. Han Xiao stared at the interface. He had to maintain his previous luck. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing magnetically controlled metal extendable armor. Han Xiao was overjoyed. What did I say? My bloodline is really lucky recently. However, Han Xiao looked at his luck attribute, and his smile gradually disappeared. How long would it take to recover all the luck that he had spent this time? This blueprint was his goal. It was not something that he should have at his current level. It was a piece of equipment that exceeded his level. It could increase his safety level by 2 levels. Out of the 300,000 materials, 250,000 were prepared for this blueprint. Advanced blueprints were several times more difficult than basic blueprints. Even though Han Xiao had the knowledge of blueprints and blueprints, it took him an hour to sort out the contents of the blueprint. He calculated the time required to create it and smiled bitterly. It would take him at least 3 days. Needless to say, Han Xiao threw himself into the difficult task of creating the blueprint. 3 days later, the door of the workshop opened. Han Xiao, who was in seclusion, walked out. His eyes were lifeless, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He had a look of, who am I? Where am I? Who's hitting me? He was at a loss. As soon as he turned on his phone, Leah Lin called and complained. Han Xiao, why couldn't I reach you these few days? There are dozens of orders for agents, and they're all urging you to ship them. You can't just accept the deposit and not do anything. I vouch for you with my reputation. Also, you promised to tailor a piece of equipment for me last time. Don't forget. Oh, right, the higher-ups gave us a mission yesterday. We have to depart to Hesla in 10 days. The captain was very angry when you were not in the meeting yesterday. You have to be careful when you see him next time. Han Zhao's eyelids felt heavy. He didn't want to do anything but sleep. He rolled up the quilt and rolled onto the bed. As soon as his head touched the pillow, he immediately fell into a deep sleep. Leolin kept calling him on the phone, but he didn't wake up. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Damn it, I haven't settled the score with you for touching me last time. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Open my eyes? No. She was under the toilet. Early the next morning, Han Xiao drifted to the toilet as if he was sleepwalking. In a daze, he peed a mouthful of water before he completely woke up. He shivered and felt comfortable all over. Han Xiao yawned and mechanically brushed her teeth and washed her face. Her eyes were drooping as she slowly opened the door of the repair shop. She went straight to the kitchen and pushed Lu Qian aside. Under Lu Qian's little fists, she calmly finished her breakfast. Under Lu Qian's resentful gaze, Han Xiao slowly walked back to his own studio. Old man Lu rubbed his bald head and sighed. He's just like me when I was young. How carefree. I want to change my keys. Old man Lu pondered. Maybe this is the love of young people. Of course not. Lu Qian roared like a lioness. Han Xiao returned to his studio and took out the result of 3 days of seclusion. It was a small box of thin metal pieces that looked like fish scales. It was pitch black with a hint of dark blue. No matter how one looked at it, this box of metal pieces had nothing to do with the word armor. However, this thing was indeed a magnetically controlled metal extended armor. It was not complete. Han Xiao took a deep breath and placed his palm on top of the metal pieces. It was only 3 centimeters away. He activated the energy in his body, and a numbing magnetic energy covered his palm. A magical change happened. The silent metal pieces suddenly trembled and gathered on their own. They were attracted to Han Xiao's palm. Like lively fish, they swam on Han Xiao's arm. Form. Han Xiao let out a low roar, and his energy flowed through his entire arm. These thin metal pieces spread out in the blink of an eye, turning into a thin, fish scale-like armor that fit perfectly without any gaps or overlaps. The metal pieces looked like they were attached to his arm, but in reality, they were floating a few millimeters away from his skin. They were controlled by the magnetic field and did not affect his movement. Han Xiao took out his platinum battle knife and slashed at the thin armor. There was a crisp sound, but there were no sparks. The thin armor was not damaged at all. Excellent defense. Han Xiao was overjoyed. Magnetically controlled metal extended armor, incomplete, type, extensible full-body bulletproof vest quality, green basic stats, 75 defense, 0, 2 square meters of full coverage, about the size of the entire back, durability, 1600 equipment requirements, magnetic energy, intermediate machinery affinity effect. Through energy, magnetic induction, the metal pieces of the armor can move around the entire body through the magnetic field. It can form armor on any part of the body. It takes 10 energy/minute to maintain the shape of the armor. Additional ability, super tough, high temperature, radiation, and penetration resistance. It can protect the human body effectively and is not easily damaged. Additional ability, repulsive bond. The damage received by the user will be reduced by 20 to 30 points for the second time. Additional ability, special magnetic field. When used, it will form a layer of magnetic field that can conduct electricity. Remarks, a friendly reminder. Please do not use this equipment in stormy weather. Equipment that required energy was called super equipment, and this magnetically controlled retractable armor was exclusive equipment for mechanics. Super equipment was a big category. Its main feature was that it was powered by energy. Generally speaking, its effect was much stronger than normal machinery of the same level. The original material of these metal pieces was a very conductive and magnetic metal. Furthermore, it was not an alloy but a very rare metal ore. It was very expensive, and even Division 13 did not have many in stock. Han Xiao had spent 250,000 to make these metal pieces that could cover his entire back. The core of this equipment was advanced material synthesis. It was relatively simple to use electromagnetism, so basic electromagnetism only required level 2 to fulfill the requirement. The principle was to fuse the magnetic fields of these metal pieces into a magnetic chain. The materials looked separate, but the magnetic fields could be fused together at any time. This was one of the principles that made the armor different from other random shapes. The most difficult part was the material synthesis of these metal pieces. The work was tedious and repetitive, and it took Han Xiao 3 days to complete. However, this blueprint was one of the easier ones among the advanced level blueprints. Han Xiao's current level, knowledge, and skills were not high enough. He could only barely create the advanced level equipment, and it was not complete either. Completing this equipment gave him 40,000 EXP, which was more than the first generation of Ranger. Han Xiao controlled the magnetically controlled metal extended armor around his body. It was a little awkward, but he soon got used to it. Many advanced level equipment required practice before it could be used properly. This was a reflection of one's skill level. Han Xiao was experienced enough, so he could use it at expert level. With the magnetically controlled metal extended armor, Han Xiao's safety was guaranteed. Furthermore, the magnetically controlled metal extended armor was very well hidden. When not in use, it was kept in a small box with holes and hung behind his back. With the cover of his clothes, it would not be discovered. It was secretive, easy to use, and portable. Han Xiao would not reveal his trump card so easily, even if he told his own people. Who knew if his own people would become his enemies one day? He had always thought that mild paranoia and paranoia was caution. Ranged, close combat, movement, and defense were all settled. All that was left was art. Chapter 68. 60 fist-sized, glossy black spherical bombs were neatly stacked in 2 weapon boxes. These were the time delay fragmentation grenades that Han Xiao had bought from Division 13. From this crappy name, Han Xiao knew that the explosive power of these bombs was not to be underestimated. One bomb cost 800 aquamarine dollars, and 60 cost 48,000 aquamarine dollars. The bombs were ready-made, and Han Xiao had only modified them. Using basic mechanical engineering, he had installed a mini propeller on the bombs. The propeller was powered by a LV5 battery, and it had temporary power. There was no need to throw it manually, and it could fly automatically, greatly increasing the attack range. However, the design was a little weird. Han Xiao had experimented with it a few times, and the image of a round-headed blue raccoon would always appear in his mind. Face simulator, enhanced Berserk Eagle pistols, lightweight mechanical arm, foldable platinum battle knife, cloud swallow glider, magnetically controlled retractable armor, and 60-time delay high explosive grenades. Han Xiao's equipment had been completely upgraded, and he could even get a variety of miscellaneous items from Division 13. At his current level, he was already a set of demigod equipment. This equipment is more than enough for now. Han Xiao crossed out personal equipment upgrade from his to-do list, and the next item was the vehicle. It would take too long to build a vehicle on its own, so it was better to just buy it and modify it. After choosing for a long time, Han Xiao decided on the type of vehicle. A heavy truck with a detachable cargo compartment that could be used as a mobile warehouse or workshop. It would also be used as the logistics vehicle for his team. Han Xiao bought the vehicle from Division 13 directly. The products from the military factory were definitely of high quality. He had 2 choices. One was to buy it with money, and the other was to exchange for it with reputation points, which meant that Division 13 would give it to him. After calculating his funds, Han Xiao was left with about 2,800,000 aquamarine dollars. It had only been a few days, but the mechanic class's ability to spend money like water was starting to show. If Han Xiao did not know how to make money, he would not have been able to afford it. If Han Xiao was not used to being a good mechanic, he would not be able to become a good mechanic. Han Xiao chose to exchange for it with reputation points, which cost him 150 Division 13 contribution points. If he had spent money, it would have cost him more than 800,000 aquamarine dollars. Han Xiao asked Feng Jun to help him with the application. Give me the vehicle. How long will it take? I need to get a car from the military factory. It'll take about 2 hours. As it turned out, Feng Jun was a punctual person. He drove a heavy truck over with a stopwatch. So here's the problem. Don't worry, It's impossible for a blue shit excavator to appear here. Cough, cough, here came a problem. The truck was too big to park in the maintenance shop. No matter how much he thought about it, he missed out on this. This was very embarrassing. The two of them stared at each other in the alley of the repair shop. What do we do now? Why don't you help me expand it again? Forget it, the engineering department doesn't have that much free time. Han Xiao scratched his chin and his eyes lit up. Didn't you bring a team to monitor this area? Where's your base? Be more rational, you bastard. Do you think we're not showy enough? Han Xiao sized up the military-heavy truck. It was 4 meters tall and 3.5 meters wide. Behind the truck was an enlarged cargo compartment that he had specifically requested. It was 11 meters long and was even wider than the front of the truck. How is it showy? I don't think so. Han Zhao's face was not red, and he was not panting. Feng Jun directly spat saliva on Han Zhao's face. Only a blind person can't see such a big truck. Why are you spitting saliva when you're talking? Han Xiao grabbed Feng Jun's sleeve and wiped his face. With a look of disdain, he said, "It's not that I want to say this, but your saliva is a bit too much." At this time, Old Man Lu walked out and exclaimed, "Wow, what a big truck." Han Zhao's eyes lit up. "Why don't we flatten the repair shop? Get out of here." Old Man Lu unhappily scolded. He rubbed his bald head and thought for a while. Then, he took out a key from his pocket and threw it to Han Xiao. "I have a garage a few streets away. I'll lend it to you." Han Xiao was surprised. "How generous. Old Man Lu, did you take the wrong medicine today? Go play somewhere else." Old Man Lu scolded. He pushed the two people blocking the alley away and walked away leisurely. Han Xiao drove and arrived at the garage 10 minutes later. "Blurg, hey, do you have to go that far?" Ma Jie's face was pale. He was holding onto the car window, vomiting and waving his hands frantically. Han Xiao did not know what Feng Jun meant. Was he saying that he would never sit in his car again? Or was he saying that he did not need to care about his feelings? Han Xiao shook his head and threw this irrelevant question to the back of his mind. After sending off the wobbly Feng Jun, he began to modify the military truck. He checked the truck from front to back. There were no bugs or cameras. The quality of the products from the military factory was reliable. The interior was constructed with 10 cylinders, turbochargers, and other equipment to increase horsepower. The truck could reach a maximum speed of 135 kilometers per hour. There were 5 wheels on each side, and all of them were large and thick anti-skid and wear-resistant tires. The cargo compartment was large enough to fit a lot of equipment. Han Xiao planned to modify it into a small workshop, so he needed to move the equipment from the workshop. The chassis was specially designed for off-road use. It was equipped with spring suspension and air suspension, so it could be driven safely in harsh terrain. It was also equipped with a drill protection device to prevent small vehicles from drilling into the chassis. The scenes in movies where the protagonist drove a sports car and drilled into a truck's crotch and fought a battle of wits and courage with the villain would never happen. Wait, why did he automatically put himself in the shoes of the villain? The cab was not cramped at all. There was more than enough space for 6 people. It was equipped with a multi-gear transmission. There were 10 gears, so the shifting was smooth and the brakes were in good condition. Han Xiao checked the airbags. There were 8 in total. As long as he did not fly out during a collision, he would not be hurt. He could even feel the pleasure of being stuffed in a big chest. Speaking of collision, the front of the truck did not have a reinforced bumper, so he had to install it manually. Han Xiao looked at the windshield again. He did not cut corners. It was bulletproof. Overall, it was in line with the rules. There was no need for major changes. Han Xiao decided to install a few nitrogen cylinders for acceleration. The heavy truck was equipped with nitrogen acceleration. It was exciting just thinking about it. As long as it did not leak, it would be better than a road hog. Han Xiao started the modification. The cargo compartment had been turned into a small workshop. The chassis and bumper had been reinforced, and the thick armor looked very sturdy. 4 nitrogen accelerator cylinders were installed inside the cargo compartment so that it could charge forward when necessary. Han Xiao had also bought some spare tires and installed a small radar antenna on the roof of the vehicle to receive radio signals and transmit Wi-Fi. The total cost was more than 100,000 yuan. Han Xiao shook his head helplessly. Modifying a vehicle was such a waste. Looking at the black heavy truck in front of him, Han Xiao scratched his chin. He suddenly felt that it was a good idea to give the truck a name. With a huge body and a dark appearance, a very reasonable name jumped into his mind. Big Black. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.